Thanks. Bye.
Hey, Laura.
Hey, you know what? How are you? Everybody's early tonight. Nice.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. It's just that I was about to teach David how to be on Zoom. So there we are. So
Not to worry. I was just saying hi. I can go back to
no.
sleep.
It's okay to stay. I'm just gonna I'm gonna walk into the other room to another computer and show David how to do stuff because we're early. And I'm gonna stop my video. And what it really means, however, is that there's nobody watching the waiting room. So, okay, but I'll be back.
All right.
That food didn't want it. He might go. I'm not gonna go on it up with a fucking say.
See, and I'm using F1. This is the cursor. This is. no doubt. Maybe. No, we don't. When, is it really password protected? No, I let David in without a password on his computer. Guess so. Where'd you go? Okay, more. Make a co-host. There we go. Yay. All right, I'm hanging up on the phone now because we're on Zoom. It was Helen. Okay. Yeah, me too. Okay. Everybody, are you hearing me twice? That's the question Jeff was asking. And Jeff, you can chime in here.
Yep, no, we're good. I think it was the feedback from our phones.
Ah, okay. Because I can sort of hear me twice over on the other computer, but it really is in another room. So I just want to make sure folks in the room, in the Zoom room, can't hear me twice. Nobody's being responsive. All right, well. So Jeff, do you want to do some co-hosting for a minute, like identify some of our participants?
Sure, I'd be happy to. We have an iPhone caller on the line. If you're okay with it, can I get at least your first name so that we can let people know who you are?
That may be me. It's Chris Barnes.
Hey, Mr. Barnes, how are you?
Good, good.
Let me just put you as Chris. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Right.
Got quite the beard going
I've been
on there.
waving to Chris and forgot my video was off. Hi,
Right.
Chris.
Hey.
Well, Chris's hair is growing on his chin where mine's growing on the back of my head.
There you go.
Right.
Go, man, go.
And then we have T2, Tammuz Second Fire.
Tamu, are you okay with that as your identifier? Okay, we'll come back to Tamamu.
All right. So the meeting does not start for at least 10 minutes, but usually we start closer to 7:05 than 7 on the dot. So we'll see what happens with that. And so Helen, what's new with you? If you're still with us. Everybody leave the room. It's so quiet, Jeff.
In moments like these, Laura, learn to appreciate it.
There's Helen.
Yes, the police just came by because there was a murder around the corner, which they think may have started here. So that was my video camera recorder thing beeping.
Oh. Oh.
Sorry, I've unplugged it, so it, there it goes again. Oh, no, it's okay.
All
If
right.
it starts again, I'll shut myself off.
You keep that up, Helen. I'm going to shut you off myself.
There you go.
Love to you, dear.
Yes.
So Helen, are you back to work yet in the film industry?
No. I mean, I could do a little bit, but it's sort of, it's just too close quarters, and they don't really have very good social distancing methods, not really. And I'm paranoid. I wear a gas mask whenever I go out into an enclosed space.
Yeah, I work 3 days on a little commercial shoot as a location rep, and I do understand, and I pretty much did not go in the house except for when I really had to.
Mhm.
But they were doing pretty good. I mean, they were having, essentially for all the grips and gappers and those guys, they had a daily contest. The winner was the person who washed his or her hands the most often, and they got a prize. So they were really encouraging, you know, that.
Yeah, but it's not hand washing, it's breathing. And, you know,
Yeah.
if I'm doing wardrobe, I'm right there, you know, and not worth it.
Well,
I'm just
wait a minute,
struggling
aren't
along.
the actors supposed to just arrive in costume unless it's a complicated thing?
It depends. I mean, usually you don't just have them come in costume because, or you have to consult with them before that. It's just not worth it. I'm just struggling along with my one Airbnb listing that I have at half price because of construction, but it's okay.
I see.
It'll always be okay.
Yeah, it's not worth dying for. So just wait till
So you have an Airbnb plus you're building the actual ADU?
Mhm. It's just a little studio in the back, and I can't
Separate
charge
from
what-
the ADU.
Yeah, I've just closed off a couple of rooms in the back of the house. That's all. And I've spent like an hour taping the cracks in the door that I closed like a mad person, and it's at half price because they have to go around the back and deal with construction.
Right. But do they have a kitchenette-y thing?
No, it's just a couple of rooms and a fridge. No, but I mean, it's the construction, everything is spotlessly clean, and they're doing the stuff inside now, so it's not loud. But yeah, it's just not worth all the stress, because you're stressed when you're doing a job and you're in with other people,
Right.
and not worth it.
Yeah, understood. Understood.
I'll just eat ramen. It's okay.
Hopefully some zucchini in that.
Yes. Well,
Or whatever.
my one giant zucchini plant has produced not a single zucchini. Usually there's like 10, 40-pound baby ones, but no, not this year.
Okay, so John is here.
I'll mute myself. Here we go.
No, you don't need to. We're just yakking. Hi, John.
Hey, John. Hello.
Oops, and Sahaja is here. John, I'm
Hello,
gonna.
Mr. Arnold.
What just happened to my listings? So I'm trying to follow my little thing. I'm gonna make you a co-host.
Okay.
For agenda item number 2, Jeff cannot co-host at all because he's presenting, I guess. All right. So again, the meeting doesn't start for another 5 minutes. So, and John, how long will you be down for the count?
Oh, only a few days. I'll be back. It only takes a few days for me.
Okay. Hi, Michelle.
Oh,
So as people are joining, we can't start the meeting, for sure we cannot start the meeting till 7 o'clock because that's the call time. Usually for planning and zoning, we start a couple of minutes later. And I'm also, so far, our first case presenter's not here. So.
That's item number 2, what you just.
No, item number, well, let me look at the agenda. It would be item number 2 because item number 1 is that whole, approve the agenda thing.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. It's like they're just snuggling.
David Raposa's on there, fucker.
Isn't the guy who sold them this house?
No, he wanted to come and be a realtor. He wanted to. Oh, yeah, yes.
Guys, you're talking about somebody in the third person who could probably hear you.
Just buy it.
I don't know what I'm gonna
Welcome, Sandra.
I'm checking.
Hey, Jeff, how are you? Hi, Laura.
Hi, are you gonna be, we have so many people here that we can't defer.
Okay. Hi, Jeff. Hope everything is going great.
You rock, girl, especially when it comes to following through on your neighborhood stuff.
Oh, I now have everybody's attention over in sanitation. Oh, God. They been over backwards to make sure things got taken care of on that day. So I'm glad. So it worked out. But thank you.
That's awesome. I was poking a big bear myself, but you must have poked a bigger one.
Oh, I poked all the way to the director.
Well, then that's the big one.
Yep, it worked too. So I now have person that we're on a first name basis now. So I think we'll be fine.
Somebody just joined with iPad 10. If you are comfortable with it, can you give me your first name so I can identify you and put your name in the meeting?
My name is Earl Jordan, West Angeles Church.
Thank you, Earl.
Okay, so it's officially 7 o'clock. People are kind of joining right and left. But I think we should, what do you think, Jeff and John? Should we start the meeting?
I think you give it a couple more minutes. They're still coming in.
I see that. Hearing a dog. Okay, it's slowing down. I think we should start the meeting because there's the little bit of housekeeping anyway, right? John, what do you think though? Arnold? You're mute.
I'm all for starting. It's 7 o'clock. I think it's good.
Okay, we'll do then. So I want to welcome everybody to the UNNC Planning and Zoning Committee Zoom meeting, and a lot of people are joining. So Jeff, I'm going to ask that you watch the waiting room for really avidly right now because I'm going to have trouble doing multiple
I'm doing that.
tasks.
You go right ahead, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So anyway, I want to welcome everybody to this Zoom meeting. My name is Laura Myers. I am the longtime Planning and Zoning Chair for United Neighborhoods. My co-chair is John Arnold. If you want to say a word or two, John.
Hey, everybody. John Arnold here, Jefferson Park, member at large, and I will be taking minutes in the chat box, especially taking down any motions.
Right.
So if you want to check the chat box for motions, I'll be writing them there.
Right. So I want to go through a few housekeeping things. First of all, the way United Neighborhoods Neighborhood Council works, we only appoint chairs and or co-chairs permanently to committees. And otherwise, the partial purpose of our committee structure is to give the community voice, to empower our stakeholders to have a voice in city affairs. So essentially, everyone who's in attendance at a committee meeting is a member of the committee for the duration of that meeting. We do not make final decisions. We make recommendations to our governing board. So, so everyone who is present may make motions. They may vote. I do want to set forth, because I know we have one issue tonight that has a lot of emotions on both sides. Our policy in the past when we were meeting in person was that when we have a controversial issue, what we're not trying to do is give the person who has the biggest bus the ability to win a recommendation fight to our governing board. So we're going to see how this goes, and that would be on item 3, I think is the number. But if we're split down the middle, that'll be a report to the governing board and not trying to measure precisely person by person, because it's hard to know sometimes how it really weighs out in a community. So this is a listening session at minimum, and we'll see how it goes. Because we are on Zoom, it's both very technical, but it's also very intimate. We're right in each other's faces. So I'm going to ask that everybody respect everyone else's opinion. You have the ability to unmute yourself, but I would ask that you do not do so until you are called, so that you're not talking over each other. We also have the ability to remute you, and sadly even to put you in the waiting room if you violate too often. But we're hoping that we're just going to have a great conversation tonight on a number of interesting topics. And with that said, I'm going to share the screen and post the agenda. And I'm obviously on the page of the agenda with our agenda items for tonight. So we've just done welcome and introduction. So the next item is the approval of the agenda. So what I need is a motion to approve and a second.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
And that's John Arnold. And
I second.
Second.
okay, I need a name.
Rosie.
Thank you. Rosie seconds. And I just need a aye or nay. So I'm going to ask everyone who's in favor to just say aye.
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 And are there any nays? Okay, so I'm going to stop the share. So going forward on our, just again, some Zoom things, if you're looking at this
Laura, you muted yourself.
how
Oh, now you're still muted. Okay, try
You're
now.
good, Laura, go.
Okay, so I'm trying this again. So Zoom, just a few Zoom tidbits. If you're not familiar with Zoom, or even if you're used to just watching a webinar, it's a little different in a meeting. The bottom of your screen is black unless you run your cursor over it. You run your cursor over it, you will see mute, stop video, and you'll also see participants. If you haven't already, you should click on the participants and bring them up, which will be on the right-hand side of your Zoom screen. The reason to do that is, in addition to seeing who's here, you should have something that says raise hand. And if you click on raise hand, a little blue hand will go up in the participant screen. So can everybody try that, since we have a lot of new people? Just try raising your hand. I'm not going to call on anybody. Just want you to all see how to raise your hand. Okay, looks like everyone knows how to do that. Diane is saying she can't. So use your cursor at the bottom of the black screen till you see the word participants, and then click on participants. And then at the bottom of the participant screen, you will see hopefully the ability to raise your hand and also to unmute yourself. So when you have a comment, we're going to let our speakers speak first on the presentations, and then you can raise your hand, and we will have a full participation discussion on our 3 items. Also at the bottom of the screen is a thing called chat. And by and large, only the hosts can chat to everyone, but you guys can chat to the host. So we cannot chat to each other. That would be a violation of the Brown Act. So what we usually use chat for in our meetings is to post motions so everyone can read the motions. So, and we're not using them to have conversations on the side. Norma has raised her hand. Norma? Was that an error? Okay. So are there any questions about how our format is? We're good. So I would like therefore to just move to the first item on our agenda, which is a case number not yet assigned. It's a project called The Depot at 3609 10th Avenue. So that's the block between 36 and Exposition in Jefferson Park. And this is a proposed new 3-story creative office building. It's 77,000 square feet, built over a 2-level subterranean parking garage in the CM-1 SP zone. The SP is specific plan. It's the Crenshaw specific plan. And this location is formerly a truck servicing depot for United Grocers, hence the name The Depot. So I'd like Asher from Luzzatto, from the Luzzatto company, is here today. And I want to unmute you. And Asher, do you want to say a few things, or should I just go ahead and start sharing the screen?
You can go ahead if you like.
Okay. Okay, so Asher, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, and here's the project. And just tell me when to move from page 1 to 2 or whatever. Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
So first of all, hello, everybody. I think many of you were on the presentation, I think last month, or maybe I guess it was back in July. Time is flying during this time, but nothing, for those of you who saw this the last go round, actually nothing has changed. The development and footprint aesthetic is all the same. But I'll just give a little bit of background for those of you who weren't there, and just about me and the company. My company is a local developer. We've done things all around the city and have been for about 15 years. Most prominently, I think our portfolio is creative office. We like to develop or rehab existing warehouse kind of buildings that are dilapidated, and kind of beautify them, make them happy, healthy space, and deliver them to tenants that appreciate and value that kind of space. We do that wherever we can, and in fact, across the street at the old dairy facility, we're doing that for Sweet Green, which is moving into the neighborhood beginning of next year, with phase 2 commencing right after that. We did that right next to the expo stop right on Exposition Place at the corner of Crenshaw, and a tenant has moved in there. And we are also doing it right behind the building that you're looking at. There's a small brick building with a large parking lot. And we've rehabbed that building, and in there is going a nonprofit called College Track, which is a pretty amazing organization that's focused on highlighting and helping underprivileged students of really any community that needs it, and kind of guiding them through the college process, both in terms of application and also just the transition into college. And they've had a lot of success. The nonprofit was started by Steve Jobs' widow, and has since kind of been helped by a lot of high-profile athletes and other people. And that project will deliver, and again, that's right behind this building. That project is going to deliver, I think, late next month. And we're looking at other sort of nonprofit community serving uses to go into another building that we own at the corner of Degnan and Exposition. Those are all pretty well within our wheelhouse, because we really ideally would just like to take old buildings and make them beautiful, healthy, happy space. But in rare circumstances, that's impossible. And the depot is one of those, mostly because it's just a vacant lot for the most part. And the existing improvements, they're not worth anything. It was for a truck depot. So we tried to imagine a project here that was kind of low scale, so that it didn't totally overwhelm the existing improvements and the surrounding neighborhood, but one that was also really beautiful and modern, and that would hopefully bring a lot of joy and nice green space to the neighborhood. So that's what you're looking at here. We haven't started. We've gone through about a year of permitting, design. It's actually been more than a year of design, and then we've been in permitting for 7 months, and we thought we were going to be out quicker than we are, which is why we had the meeting back in July 15th, it looks like. But the city is delayed beyond belief at this point. And obviously with the macroeconomic environment, the macro socioeconomic environment, it's getting harder and harder to do anything. Not just because the city is slower, but because lenders don't want to fund and tenants don't want to lease. And so we're very lucky that we got this project going before all this hit. And we're just frankly hoping to keep it going so that it doesn't kind of fall prey to the macroeconomic environment. Anyway, we're here to present kind of humbly to you and ask, of course, that you give us comments and let us know what you think. And hopefully this is the project we can move forward on, because we have, frankly, we've been in permitting for 7 months, as I said. And so I'm just very hopeful we can get out of permitting so we can start building. It's really critical at this point.
So Asher, should I start running through these slides?
Sure, yeah.
So I'm on page 2 for those on the phone, and it's basically a site plan. Do you need to say anything about it?
Not really, other than we're going to have 2 levels of subterranean parking and then 3 levels of office on top of it with the appropriate setbacks. But you can see the existing footprint. It's shown well here.
Okay, so I'm moving to slide 3 for those on the phone. Okay, and I see David Saffer has his hand raised.
I do. I just wanted to clarify the actual, it's a little uncertain in my mind exactly what the lot is, or the size of the lot. So is Dunsmuir the alley, the gated alley?
Yeah,
and not
Dunsmuir isn't the right name. That's the alley.
Yeah.
Okay, because it was, I was trying to figure out if it went all the way to the to Degnum, and then it's like, wait, no, that doesn't look like it does. Okay,
Yeah,
so that is the alley. Okay, thank you.
And so I do have a question, Asher, as long as we're just stopped here. The thing labeled Dunsmuir, which is really the alley, I'm reminded that at the last meeting, your team said that you're going to probably leave that wall in place because you're being required to have the setback that we can see on this. So the alley will remain walled, is what I think we were told previously. Is that still true?
Hey,
Do you see what I'm talking about on the screen?
I'm on a Zoom thing right now. You're talking about our neighborhood.
So yes, the short answer is there will be a wall there.
In that location.
Probably not going to be the existing wall, but there will be a wall, yes.
Okay, so, because I'm reminded of that as I look at this diagram. Okay, I am, again, moving to page 4. It shows the true existing. And you can see, and I'm sorry, Asher, I'm doing your presentation, but you can see at the bottom of the screen across the street, so that'd be the east side of 10th Avenue, is residential mostly, but there is a parking lot that related in the past to the same depot building, I think.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and this highlights, if you want to go back one actually for just a second.
so I'm on page 4.
Yeah, so the areas highlighted in that kind of pink salmon color, that's what's going to be demolished in favor of the building that's going up. The 2 buildings to the south, that front exposition, will remain.
Okay, so it's a little strange looking at this because in this case, south is left.
Right.
So if you're turned around, it's because exposition should be at the bottom of the screen and 36th Street should be at the top and 10th should be on your right. But anyway, so it's south on the left, north on the right, east on the bottom.
That's right.
Okay, can I go back to page 5 now?
Yeah.
Okay. And again, these haven't changed from before. I mean, we're showing the same screen as from July. So this is just showing that there is landscaping on all 3 levels. Correct?
Right.
And I'm on page 6. John, you had some comments, positive ones about this previously. If you're unmuted.
I'm unmuted. Yeah, I think it's a great project, and I appreciate the garden orientation to the neighborhood to the north, and the tiered effect. And to me, it's an overall positive contribution to the neighborhood and a great design.
So this is, we're looking on page 6 is the building entrance rendering, and then page 7 is an aerial rendering with a lot of garden stuff on these deck tops or rooftops. I mean deck tops. And then page 8, help, John, what is this, or Asher?
That's just an elevation look at how it will kind of stack and look from the facade. But yeah, we have some, I think it's, there's some nice tiering here where there was a couple of views that showed it really well, but there will be green space at every level you look at, which is important for all of our projects. We did the same thing at the dairy, which is going to be beautiful. And yeah, I think from the street level, it will really, you'll look up and see green, which is really nice.
Yeah, this elevation doesn't do it justice. It looks flat in the elevations, which elevations do, but the previous drawings really show the tiering effect in all the gardens and the mitigation, the lessening of the height effect.
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
Sandra has her reins.
I saw that. So Sandra, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. Could you go back? I guess it's maybe page 7 where you showed the garden areas. Is that actually going to be facing that one? Is that going to be facing 10th Avenue, or is that going to be facing Exposition?
That's 10th. Exposition, again, is to the left, kind of off screen here. So yeah.
So the gardens are going to be seen by the residential housing across the street.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question. The striations on the siding. Do you have how are those striations made?
It's a prefab metal panel system, and it's you got to do watertight below that, but then it's really aesthetic, but really durable. So one of the things that we talked about this last meeting, I know there was some thoughts on the design and the materiality and all that, but one thing that's really important for us is to design buildings that don't just look good for 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. Like we're trying to design things that will be around for a really long time and look good for a really long time. And there's not a whole lot of materials anymore that do that. It's just, the truth of the matter is most stucco, plaster, all this kind of cheap stuff, a lot of it's coming from China, a lot of it's breaking down. We're seeing it in a lot of the multifamily buildings. It's not gonna work. And so we tried to push this to more of an industrial look and feel with materials that would last. And that's why you have this system here. And there will be some rusting, there will be some kind of aging, but it will age into the space. It won't break down, if that makes sense.
Okay. So Jeff, I know I saw several people with their hands raised, but I need to ask Asher a question or two. This is going to need a specific plan approval, right? That we're waiting for the case number to be assigned. Does it need any other approvals? Does it need a site plan approval, or is it just the specific plan, if you know?
It's just a specific plan for specific plan compliance.
Okay, and so I assume your architect checked in and that the materials meet the specific plan compliance?
Yeah, we actually use the same materials basically as our project at the dairy. So we had a good understanding of what could and couldn't be used.
Okay. So Jeff, I know I saw hands were raised, but I'm unable to see who they may be. And so wait. So Wait, so the question is, should I continue to screen share or should I let the screen share go so I can participate again in the meeting?
Madam Chair, I would suggest keeping the screen up so that if people have questions pertaining
Okay.
to the illustrations that they're seeing.
All right, well then, Jeff, I
first,
need you to make the calls.
Ethan, you're up, and then we will follow up next with David.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks a lot. Laura, you can hear me, correct?
I can hear you, I just can't see.
I have my video off. Asher, this is Ethan. Thanks a lot. I like the way the building looks. I just have a couple of concerns. My first concern or question is, I know at your previous presentation in July, there was conversations of you were going to use an artist to do some sculptures, possibly in the lobby. And I would just want to ask if there's a possibility of doing some outside art on the building, possible murals, and if they can be used from a local artist. One of the upcoming office buildings on Crenshaw, part of their presentation from the CIM group, talked about doing an outside art installation, and they committed to using a local artist from the neighborhood. So just wanted to put that feather in your hat. I know there's been talk about inside art, but maybe some outside art in the building from a local artist. That's my first comment. My second comment is from, and Laura, I don't need to go to the exact slide, but from one of the slides, it said that there are going to be 152 parking spaces.
Yeah, well, I'll see if I can find that slide.
And while you're finding that, Laura, it's my understanding for right around the corner at the, I think it's the one under that one, Laura, 2 down. At Sweet Green's headquarters, there's going to be 100 parking spaces. Later on, I believe tonight, there's going to be a presentation for another project on 36th Street where there's going to be additional parking and a plethora of other office buildings that are coming within half a mile of this location. And one thing we're starting to see across the country from the recent uprisings across the country is a discussion on how urban planning is impacting the urban spaces and specifically the Black and Brown communities with lack of clean air, the areas being hotter and the such from buildings being built, more cars coming in, and that the lack of clean air as well as the heat index in these spots are a lot worse than they are in the suburbs due to these type of projects. Even if you go to iqair.com, Jefferson Park has some of the worst air quality in the city of Los Angeles. So I just want, it is not really a question, Asher, it's more of a comment, and a comment to you, Laura, that as we're looking at these additional large scale projects, this is office space of 73,000 square feet, we need to consider the impact that it's happening to the Black and Brown residents within arm's reach of these projects when it comes to the areas being warmer from these type of buildings, emitting more heat, how it's impacting the air quality with, right now, these 2 projects will have over 250 cars coming in just within these 2 blocks. And these are things that are going to come that weren't here before. So we need to be considerate of local residents, as we're seeing through this pandemic, that some already have predisposing illnesses that can leeway into other illnesses. But these type of urban projects and huge development projects in the urban spaces in Los Angeles and across the United States do have impact to the neighbors that live within a short distance. That's all I have to say, Laura.
Yeah. So, yeah, and Ethan, it's interesting because all of these projects are actually, from some other people's point of view, underparked because, as you may know, the specific plan does not allow full parking. So in other words, if this was built somewhere else in the city, there would be a building and safety parking requirement at 100%, whatever that number is, and in this specific plan area, the maximum amount of parking allowed is 90% of that number, and it can be as low as 50% of that number. I obviously do not know where 152 spaces falls in that spectrum. And I'm gonna guess, Asher, you probably don't know that either. I mean, your
Yeah.
architect would know it. But I will also say, because, you know, we'll just moving forward for a second to the third item, the parking you're talking about on the other item, they already have that approval. So, and they are also at the 90% or below requirement. So it's interesting because some of that policy is based on encouraging people who are coming to these various locations to use the train. And I do personally wonder when people are going to be comfortable using the trains again at the level that we hope for, you know, due to the pandemic. So we'll see. But your point is very well taken, because the dairy, these projects would have had big trucks, but not as many employees, obviously. I mean, these locations. Okay.
Madam Chair. David
Jeff, whoever else.
still has his hand raised. He's the last hand raised.
I can't.
Ethan, so if you want me to address it, I'm happy to. If not, we can, whatever you think, Laura. I'm happy to at least give.
Well, I'm in no position to see if we have 2 hands raised or 20 hands raised, so I can't answer that.
David Chapter is the last hand raised. David, please go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff. I think you need to adjust your mic because you could. It sounds like this. This is all you can hear.
Is that
Anyway.
Jeff calling on people that was whispering? Okay.
Yeah, Jeff was calling on me. So overall, I think it's a nicely designed project. The one additional comment I would make is, have you done any studies, considering you've indicated you own the full lot? This is only developing the north side of the lot, but you've indicated that a future project would be the south side along Expedition Boulevard, to orient the parking toward that back alley, which actually, according to Google Maps, is a named street. So that is not just an alley; it is a named street, to make it wider, to orient the parking away from the residential.
Yes.
And have it out toward the back.
I'm gonna answer that. The alley is actually closed and it's in use as part of the Jefferson Park Pet Resources Center. So the alley's not you can't look at this map. It's in use.
Yeah, it's not accessible for vehicles to use that for parking.
Madam Chair, we have one more hand raised. Gavin, Glenn, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Laura, just quick clarification. I'm sorry if I missed it. So is there a metro deferment because it's close to the train or not? It has.
This is close to Crenshaw and Expo.
Okay, so they don't need I heard you say 90%, so they don't need as much parking, or is that?
Well, they're not even allowed to have as much parking as this would require in another part of town.
Okay.
They have to have less.
And then the next question is, and no one may have the answer, but once the developer develops, do they go through a real estate company to find somebody to lease this, or do they try to lease it themselves?
Asher, that one's for you.
That one is. It's typically we'll try and lease it ourselves. So the way we've done it in the past is that while the project is under development, we will represent the project as the developer and try to lease it out ourselves. And we've had a lot of success doing that, and also not just success financially, because frankly, we make a lot of concessions to find the right tenant and the right relationship. But we're trying here to have a really good mix of really innovative companies that are growing, that represent something beyond making money, and also that I think can contribute to this general business area, which has been vacant for so long. And I think we've gotten a company called Goat to go right next to the train stop. We've gotten Sweet Green. We've gotten College Track. We're now talking to kind of a blended public-private potential medical user that would maybe go in another building. And we're really trying to curate something here that both is community-oriented, but also that can sustain, develop, and grow jobs. And a tenant like Sweetgreen, frankly, is worth bringing in because beyond the lease, they also invest so much in the space. They're investing millions of dollars in that space beyond what they're getting in the lease. And I know they've also been reaching out to a lot of the farmers markets. I don't know where exactly the farmers market is here. I think it's just up Crenshaw, or down Crenshaw. But I know they've been working with that farmers market to source actually some fresh vegetables and leafy greens and stuff for their restaurants. So they're making an effort, and we appreciate that too. So long-winded answer, I apologize, but try to give some color.
Okay, so I was asked a question in chat, and I know the answer, whether this is going to be mixed use, including housing, and the answer is no. This is basically a commercial structure in an industrial zone, so it's an office, it's not housing. And I am being asked as well.
Okay,
so one of the questions I'm being asked is there any risk that what we're seeing, in effect, what we're seeing won't be what's incorporated into the final building delivered? So I think, John, you can address that in a motion that has your normal, what's your normal phraseology about?
Significant compliance. Significantly, my gosh, drawing a blank.
Okay, normal motion. I'm typing this.
I already have it all typed up.
Oh, you want to post?
Well, I'm writing. I'm in the process of writing. I already teed up. I said,
okay.
So what I have is, hold on. The UNNC Planning and Zoning Committee recommends blank that the following action of the UNC Governing Board regarding the proposed.
I have my hand raised.
I see, Rosie. Can we let John finish his statement?
Proposed presentation for 3609 10th Avenue.
But it would be subject to, contingent upon that. What is that phrase we like to use? While we're thinking of that, Rosie, you had your hand raised.
Yes. He said there was 2 other buildings on that lot. Are they going to be developed later on?
No, there's 2 buildings that the company owns on the adjacent parcels south. And Asher, is it correct that you've already rehabbed those buildings? I'm losing track myself. Are those the buildings you've already done something with?
No, those are existing and are actually pretty nice older industrial buildings. Unfortunately, half of them have been vacated because of COVID, and the tenant was not able to make it. The other half is still occupied by a furniture designer kind of maker. Those 2 buildings, our hope would be at some point we could develop multifamily there. We're not doing that now. And frankly, we're trying to do what we can in this macroeconomic environment, and when things improve, if we can move forward on multifamily, we would certainly look at that. I know there's a lot of other multifamily going in and around the area. And so we would be happy to let those go in and see how the neighborhood takes it, and then kind of move forward in a couple of years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever.
So you're talking about the furniture company that had the fire that's actually on 9th Avenue, and part of it is on 9th Avenue and part of it is on Exposition. That's the place you're talking about?
No, ours are just right there. This is immediately adjacent to the site we're talking about.
Okay.
Immediately, those 2 buildings right there on Exposition.
Oh.
Laura, substantial conformance.
Thank you. So do you want, John, do you want to post your proposed motion?
Well,
You need to move on to the other agenda items.
So we're recommending approval. Let me just type this up.
You have to vote. I just want you to post.
So I'm going to say let's just make a motion. We recommend the committee recommends approval that the UNC Governing Board support the project in substantial conformance to the proposed
To the presentation?
yes, to the presentation. I'll just leave it at that. And do we have qualifications based on any comments?
One of the comments was to really to make sure the the tiered gardens really do get included in the final project. Apparently that's a popular thing.
So that would be substantial conformance to what was shown today. Art, do we say the owner to investigate art per Ethan's comments?
Oh yes, investigate some public art that that could use a local artist.
Public art from a local artist, inside and out.
I apologize. Just one note on that. We have an artist that we've already submitted through the art, whatever the program that you go through the city on. That's already been in process. It's a local artist. He's an amazing artist, and for anybody that's interested, you can look him up. It's called Aum Abstract, AUMABSTRACT. He's an amazing human being and an amazing artist. And I actually am very proud that he's an artist here. He's local to Los Angeles, very in tune with the environment and nature, and is gonna be, he's just an amazing person. So feel free to research him, but that is our artist. But it's not to say we won't also look at placing some art outside. That's kind of subject to, I'm out of that process a bit. That's between, we have an art consultant with the city that kind of dictates this, and we have to go through the process as they see fit.
So what I wrote is continue the pursuit of public art from a local artist inside and out. And as far as the mitigation for any pollution, emissions, any suggestion how to write that?
We also did, by the way, we did a traffic study here that showed that we're way under material traffic impacts here. So we're happy to, I don't know where we have that, but we're happy to commit to that. And the city has made us commit to it because of the project size. So that's, just so you know, that's already well within what we're being required to do.
Okay, and then
Sure, why don't we do this, because these are two open questions. We're going to be moving this forward to the board. Let's have the information in time to have for the board meeting, both on the traffic and on the artists.
So what I wrote is, and to ensure that the project does not contribute to increased health issues of local population. So we'll fine tune that, but it's in there.
Okay, so John, while you're posting that, Denise has her hand raised.
It's posted.
Okay, it's posted, but Denise does have her hand raised, so I'm gonna do the courtesy of asking for that question or comment.
No, yes, thank you, Laura. I just wanted him to repeat the name of the artist. And then he also said something about working with the city on the artist, and I wanted to hear a little bit more about that process and why he's working with the city, or what is the requirement to work with the city. So the
Asher, is that the 1% for art program?
Yeah, we're spending more than that, but it is the art program. And unfortunately, with the city at this point, you have to go through a process no matter what you do, whether it's a mural or a sculpture or whatever. You got to go through them. It's what it is.
Well, someone just checked artistry. I got that answer. Thank you. I don't need.
Yeah, we're
Someone
having a
just
hard
text-
time hearing you, Denise.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why. I said someone just texted me the artist, so I have that information. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Denise, this is Jeff, and you're going to want to start by reaching out to the Department of Cultural Affairs. They're going to be able to hook you up with how you sign up or how you go through the process, and that information is going to be provided to the developers and whatnot as well when they're looking for local talent.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we could, again, for our board meeting, have the information about the program overall available. That we can, Asher and I can work together and Jeff to figure out if there's a handout of some sort that the city has that we can post to our agenda packet for the board meeting about the program in general. So, okay, so the motion is,
It's kind of hacked up. It's hard to type into the chat because you can only see one line at a time.
yeah, I know. But John Arnold moves that the UNNC Planning and Zoning Committee recommends the following action to the UNNC Governing Board. This is also clunky regarding the proposal presented for 3609 10th Avenue. The committee recommends that the UNNC Governing Board support the project in substantial conformance to the presentation with the following qualifications: continue the pursuit of public art from a local artist inside and out, and to ensure that the project does not contribute to increased health issues of the local population. So I'm putting John moved. Do I have a second? Anyone?
I second. This is Paula.
Seconds. Okay. Whoops. Paula. Seconds. It is hard to type in chat. Trying that better. Are there any other comments? Okay, questions. What I'd like to do is, again, utilize our raised hand function. If you are in favor of this motion, and again, whoever wants to vote may, please raise your blue hand as if you are asking to speak. And I'm going to have to start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, if you, and John, you and I can't raise our hand.
That's correct.
And I'm losing, my problem with trying to count is that other messages are getting in the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15. I've got 18, more or less. Is there, if you could all take your hands down, is there any opposition? Okay, motion carries. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. So we are moving to our second agenda item, which is traffic mitigations on Arlington Avenue, West Adams Avenue. Is a request for UNNC support for the addition of bollards, however that's pronounced, and striping at 24th Street and 25th Street on the west side of Arlington, which would restrict the right-hand turn while allowing from 24th and Arlington eastbound, allowing right turns only onto Arlington going south. Discussion and action. Jeff, I think you are the presenter, and thus, while I'm not going to strip you of co-host status, I am stripping you of the ability to call people when they raise their hands, since you're the presenter.
That's perfectly fine.
Okay. And I will. I should have this available to put. Oh, here it is. Okay. So can everybody see the screen? And then Jeff, you're up.
All right, I'm trying to shift on this end as well, so just give me a.
Right. So I've shared the screen, John, Jeff. And John, can you watch for raised hands? Because
Sure.
since I'm sharing the screen, I can't see the raised hands, and
Sure.
I don't want Jeff calling on raised hands.
Okay.
Okay. Jeff, are we getting a presentation?
Yes. For many years, West Adams Avenues has been working on trying to find solutions to support safety within the avenues, primarily near Benny Potter Park and the annex, which includes the South Seas House and the rotunda to the west of it, because the park has expanded. I have not been a part of that history, but I do know that this neighborhood has been working for it, as I said, for many years. And we've been working with DOT. We were not looking at permanent gating solutions that have been done in other neighborhoods. We were looking at making sure that the park in particular was a destination and not a drive-through. So
I'm going to switch to page 2.
yeah, switch to page 2. So after many years of talks and planning and collecting of signatures and what have you, what is being proposed now is putting bollards on half of the street, both at 24th and 25th, restricting right-hand turns. It's not being closed. It will still allow right turns out of 24th and 25th onto Arlington going to the south. So what I think that West Adams Avenues is looking for is protecting the safety of our park and stopping the thoroughfare, which is happening on 25th Street, just basically 2 blocks south of the 10 freeway, one of the largest traveled freeways in our state, much less the United States. But there will still be access to all of the avenues, including portions north of the freeway that have been currently using some of these avenues. If you'll back up one, Laura, this is just an example, and so that you guys know, this is Alessandro and Baxter. The idea from DOT would be to put a straight line of bollards, the skinny ones, so that, yes, emergency vehicles and even determined individuals could still go through them. But it would not include the sign that you see there in the middle. When we were in discussions with DOT, I asked them, how many times have you had to replace bollards? And especially these ones, the less invasive ones. And they answered surprisingly very little. And that's across the entire city of Los Angeles. So it's a solution to some of the things that have been happening at 24th and 25th. Already at 24th and 25th on both sides of Arlington, there is no left. We all know that that is still happening. So what the Avenues is proposing is to reduce the turn-ins at 24th and 25th, which then merge in after the park and by the park, where we see a lot of not cut off, but cut through traffic.
Okay.
So we're bringing it to the community to weigh in They've been working on this for a long time, and I can guarantee you that it is something that is necessary to protect pedestrian safety on 24th and 25th, which merges into 25th right there at the park, and cut through traffic, which is 25th has become, especially after COVID, has become a very popular spot for dog walkers, families with strollers, kids biking, skating, scootering. So there you have it.
So I am going to stop the. Did you do that? I'm going to stop the share. So if you guys can all take one last look at what's being proposed, it's the red lines are the southbound Arlington, just south of the freeway. No right turn onto 24th. No right turn onto 25th. The green arrows show that if you were exiting the avenues, eastbound toward Arlington, you would be only allowed to turn right or south towards Adams. I'm going to stop the share, and we have 50 some people participating tonight, and we're at 8 o'clock with another item after this. So I'm going to ask that, number one, everyone, if you want to speak, but somebody already said what you had to say, please do not repeat them. And I want to limit this at the moment. I'm going to start as a limit at 20 minutes. And the order at the moment, so I know John said watch the hands, but I can see them at the moment. And I also kind of want to go back and forth between people's opinions. John, you have your own hand up?
Yeah, I just have a question.
Sure.
So, Jeff, if I'm coming north on Arlington and I want to get to the avenues, do I turn left on Adams?
Yep. Except I can answer that for you, John. Yes, you do, except for not in rush hour.
Yes. So if I'm coming, that was my main. And if I'm want to access the avenues south Arlington, going southward Arlington, I take a right on Adams. That's easy, and then access whatever avenue I want to get on. So I guess that'd be my only concern. I'm not concerned about this. I support this. But if I'm coming north on Adams and I want to get to the avenues, north on Arlington, I want to get to the avenues during rush hour, I can't.
Right. That is correct. Okay, so so again, I don't necessarily recognize all the different names. I'm going to try and get a mix of opinions. So even though I can see an order that the hands have gone up, I may go out of order if I'm hearing all one side. So I'm going to start with Julia Fisher.
Hi, thanks for having me speak. This is my first time at this meeting, and so I appreciate being able to weigh in. I heard about this recently. I live on 23rd Street, so I have the privilege of watching the freeway on-ramp, the freeway off-ramp, listening to all the construction that starts at 11 p.m. at night on those on-ramps and off-ramps recently. And if I leave my house and walk to the freeway, I can be there in 15 seconds. If I leave my house and drive to get on the freeway, it sometimes now takes me like 10 minutes because of the limitations on making lefts. You can't make a left onto Arlington off of 23rd anymore. You can't make another left into the streets and kind of loop around. There's a lot of limitations. And I just want to point out that cutting off the right turns creates a whole added slew of limitations in getting home, in picking up my kids from school, because as was pointed out, you can't make a left onto Adams if you're going north at rush hour. While I respect the avenues, and they seem to be very important, they've been referenced quite a bit in this phone conversation, I want to articulate and bring up that there are other people who are living on the streets and so accessing our roads through the avenues is really quite cumbersome. My daughter also gets dropped off through Click at South Seas. I'm there, I pick her up all the time. I went before COVID, I see the bus. I have not seen or noticed something that looks like a dramatic safety concern. There was reference to some data, but there's no data made in this argument. There's no like actual statistical data that I've been able to see or find. I would argue if you're looking for some sort of, to come to some sort of consensus and both sides could give up a little bit, that you allow right turns on at least one of those streets. 24th is a rec center with lots of kids. Maybe it's an easier argument to cut off the right, but 25th isn't. So that's just my 2 cents, and I look forward to hearing what other people have to say. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm going to go out of order. I see Gina's quite animated with that, so I'm going to call on Gina next.
Oh, I apologize to you, Laura.
But I know where you live. You live right
where I
there
live.
on 25th, yes.
Yeah, I live right on 25th. I live on the street in question, and I don't know all the research or any of all the planning. I am speaking just as a resident who live on that street, and it would be very difficult for me to get home if I'm driving north on Arlington. I won't be able to turn left onto my street. If I come north going home and I need to turn left at Adams because that street is blocked, I can't turn left from 4 to 6. So that means I'm gonna have to drive all the way around to get to my house. And that's a problem. So unless you guys have some other way for me to be able to get to my house, that makes 0 sense. It barely makes sense for you guys when whoever put up the not turning left from Arlington, no one asked me if you guys should put that sign up. You guys just put that sign up, and it makes no sense to me as a resident. So why are we having this discussion? Why is this an issue? And think about the residents. You know, I know you guys want to protect the park and all of that, but for someone who's lived here for 16 years, and I haven't been in an accident. I haven't had any problems. So why do it? And that's my statement. Thank you.
Excuse me, but I would like to completely agree with the woman that just spoke and the woman before. It is quite cumbersome. I live at Adams and Arlington. That left sign at 24th and 25th, you cannot get in. Like she said, at Adams and Arlington, at Arlington and Washington, there are timed turning, left turn activity, and it is a mess. You cannot block those streets from turning right and left because that's the only in and out access for those of us who are on the east and west side of Adams Boulevard, and for those of us who are between Adams and for those of us who are on the east and the west of Arlington Boulevard, and for those of us who are between north and south of Washington and Adams. It's ridiculous. I've been in the neighborhood 20 years, and the real problem is the intersection at Adams and Arlington. Along Arlington Boulevard from Adams to Washington, I have never, ever seen an accident. So yeah, I am totally in opposition of blocking off these streets because there's nowhere to get in and out for those of us who live on this Adams side and those streets in between. You've already blocked off, what is that? North of 24th. You can't get in and out. So it's ridiculous.
All right.
This is Diane. I'd like to speak up now.
Okay, guys,
Yeah.
I get to call on people, and what I was really looking for, I thought I was trying to get balance, and I wasn't. So I think, is there, of the people whose hands are raised, I don't know if anybody is in support of this. I'm just gonna take a guess. Ann Lutsky?
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. I would just like to say that
By restricting access to 24th and 25th, we would be fostering the community feeling that the Avenues has worked so hard to create. With the community programs that the rec center has built, the children's park that the community has built, the Avenues has worked hard to foster a neighborhood feeling. For joggers, families, and kids on bikes, closing off the Avenues is of paramount importance.
Okay. Diane, you're next.
Yeah,
I'm going to take
since the gentrification has come into play.
Hang on.
Yeah, I'm going
One
to
person
take
at a time.
exception. I'm going to take exception to the reasons and the way this has happened. This is a very big problem in communities where you have a small group of people who suddenly take over the neighborhood and tell the neighborhood what they need and what they want.
Exactly.
And I think that is what's happening here.
How
So
about
I
you?
think,
Well,
okay, everybody, hold on. Let me have my time. Let me have my time. So that's number one. Number two is, where are the stats for the alleged danger? I walk in that neighborhood with my dog. It's got wide streets. I never see cars racing by me that might veer off the road and hit me. So what is this concept of cars coming through and suddenly it's dangerous? These are big streets. You can walk anywhere. It's a lovely place to go walking. You don't need to stop cars.
Nobody break in.
All right, hold on. The third thing is that when that park is absolutely safe from cars, because when cars come off of 24th, they have to stop at the end of before they even turn left or right to go down 25th. They have to stop. So they're not suddenly speeding up from that stop onto 25th next to the park. So this idea, I know it's like, oh, the kids is like a, it's like a straw dog, or it's like a whistle, but the kids are fine. I've been to those parks. I don't see cars streaming by and children running out into the street possibly getting hit. So I think all of those excuses are very suspicious. I'd like to see the stats on accidents that have happened in that neighborhood. And I'd like to see the petition, like how many people have signed that petition that they have. If there's 1,000 people living in that community, how many signatures do they have? What are the number of people that are in that community, and what are the number? I mean, is it just the friends of the people who are pushing this on us? So I think the whole thing needs to really be looked at, as opposed to like kind of slid through the cracks here. And I know you've been working on it a long time, but who's been working on it? Like who exactly?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm
Laura,
gonna.
Laura, can I address some of those
Yes.
issues? Because I can address some of the stats.
Okay, so I was gonna say Chris, then David, Raposa, then Michelle Claus. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, so I live on 4th and 25th. There was a neighbor that used to live at the corner of Arlington and 25th who began creating a photo documentary of all of the accidents that happened on Arlington and 25th and Arlington and 24th. There were 57 accidents in a 3-year period of time that were documented by the neighbor. I took photos of those accidents. It was uploaded into a website. It was submitted to the city. All of those accidents were submitted. There have been multiple letters that were sent to the city about it. The city then indicated that they would take some sort of action. One of those accidents resulted in a fatality at 25th and Arlington. Multiple injuries of pedestrians crossing at 25th because there's the crosswalk there as well. 2 years ago, there was a woman crossing the road at right near the park. A car traveling, trying to get away from police, trying to get access to the freeway, jumped over the road on 4th at my corner and hit her and injured her pretty severely. This idea that this is about access over safety is a challenging one for a person who has spent his entire career as an attorney representing people in accidents. The idea that it is going to be inconvenient for anyone to drive 1 minute out of their way so that children don't get injured and killed on the streets near the park is appalling to me. If you want to know the stats, ask the city, because the city has gotten multiple complaints about accidents at that crosswalk and accidents at 25th and 24th at Arlington. And that's only when I started counting them because of the neighbor who started documenting them. That's 50-something accidents in a 3-year period of time. And that's just in that period of time. Accidents on that street, when I did a request for accidents at 25th, and Arlington and 24th and Arlington, or even more than that. So the idea that this is about safety over access is a challenging one for me. If you also look at the street itself, the two streets that are directly to the north of 25th have both been closed off. They were closed off years and years ago for the exact same reason, safety. Doesn't have anything to do with people not being able to go out of those streets and enter the freeway. It's because those streets are too close to the freeway. People are coming off of the freeway. They're coming off fast. They enter into the park. They've caused those accidents. It's really just about that. It's not about anything else.
Okay.
Those accidents are all happening on Arlington.
No. If you're not.
Laura, I'm now, and this is the first time I've hosted, so I'm helping you. Go ahead, Laura, if you call the next person.
David Raposa. Okay, honestly, you guys, we
think I'm
have
unmuted.
the ability to throw you into the waiting room if you interrupt the speaker.
David, you are unmuted.
Okay, hi. I'm David Raposa. I've lived here for 35 years at 4th Avenue and 25th Streets. I have, for 35 years, respectfully used the 24th Street right-hand turn. We've added stop signs over those 35 years, and that seems very effective to me to keep traffic at a minimum speed. You can't go more than one block at a time unless you're willing to run stop signs, and I don't think any of us as residents are doing that in our neighborhoods. I don't support the blocking of 24th and 25th Streets for their right-hand turns because I don't think there's sufficient evidence to overcompensate the fact that neighbors, particularly on 2nd and 3rd Avenues, more so also extending into 4th and 5th, are impacted pretty dramatically. So I have two concerns. One is for the actual impacts on the residents, particularly 2nd, 3rd Avenue. There's well over 100 residences and apartments, units on those blocks. Come more than that as you start adding 4th Avenue and 5th Avenue. My second concern relates what happens to those people as they try to go conveniently home from 24th Street and 25th Street. They're all going to be forced to wait in traffic to go down to the lights at Adams, and that's already a bottleneck, especially during hours that are more rush hours. And what's going to happen is we're adding to that problem. We're delaying people further. Those individuals who have an intent to come through our neighborhood and speed through are not going to be deterred by not having the ability to go through on 24th to 25th. They're going to find another way to do it if they're that intent on doing it. I think it's really rude, not just inconvenient to the neighbors of 2nd and 3rd Avenues, and to some extent 4th, to mostly without their permission and their understanding and their buy-in, to tell them they can no longer go one block off of Arlington after maybe a long freeway ride or coming from Hollywood or somewhere, and they have to now go 2 more blocks on Arlington, 2 Adams in traffic, wait at the light. There's a lot of accidents in Adams and Arlington, and we're increasing our risk as residents by being forced to go to that block. And then they have to go along Adams in traffic and take a right onto the 2,500 blocks of 2nd Avenue or 3rd Avenue, increasing the number of cars coming through there. I don't see that we have sufficient evidence that warrants causing that sort of imposition on residents here in the avenues. I've also heard someone comment from west of 6th Avenue along 25th Street about these people coming through and doing donuts, which I guess are the turns with lots of wheel marks in our streets. I do see one big donut mark on 4th Avenue, but I don't see any evidence connecting that with people that cut through. I actually have friends living at the other park at Dalton and 28th Streets, and I looked there the other day. There's about 15 wheel marks there. So perhaps the wheel marks are more related to people who are enjoying the park and having fun. And one of our goals as neighbors, I think, is to not impede the benefit of people who want to go to the park and have a good time. So the fact that someone might be cutting through and doing a donut doesn't seem very logical to me. As far as cutting through, again, nobody who knows our neighborhood and is a reasonable person is going to cut through a neighborhood where there's a stop sign 1 block away at 24th, there's a stop sign again at 25th and 2nd, a stop sign at 25th and 3rd, a stop sign at 25th and 4th, another one at 5th, another one at 6th, and so on. No one does that. So I understand, I understand the concern, and it's very hard for a lot of us as neighbors, long-term neighbors, to argue with someone who's saying you're putting at risk our children, our pets, our elderly. No one wants to do that. But I think there needs to be a reasonable balance, and with the neighborhood concerns of access to our apartments, even access to the park, people under the park, and if there's any really documentable evidence that shows both a real need for this blockage based on a volume of bad activity, not once every month someone runs through, and if this is the only way to mitigate a problem that's serious, then let's look at it and reconsider. But at the moment, I think that it's an unnecessary inconvenience to our 2nd Avenue, 3rd Avenue, and maybe 4th and 5th Avenue residents. So thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Next up is Michelle. I've unmuted you. Trying to unmute you.
Yes.
Can you
hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I am a resident of Arlington Heights, and I am here today because I'm actually in opposition of these bollards and striping. We're talking a lot about residents in the avenues, but I don't think people are realizing that it actually affects the residents of Arlington Heights. I live at about 4th and Washington. But before I get started, I actually want to address Chris's discussion on data. Yes, there have been accidents for people trying to make left turns heading south on Arlington, and pedestrian accidents, but let's refocus the data on, we're talking about specifically right-hand turns onto 24th and 25th. And from my research from the data set that the city uses for their Vision Zero project, which is to create more pedestrian safe, friendly streets, doesn't support the information that he shared with us here today. So if that information is publicly available, that should be shared. But from what I found, there actually hasn't been any fatalities in the Benny Potter Park area. The second part of this is that if you install those no right-hand turn signs heading south of Arlington, you're asking everyone to funnel onto Arlington and Adams, which is, according to the High Injury Network, which is another subset of data that the city uses, it's the 127th most dangerous intersection in California. There are a lot of intersections in California, and we're asking more traffic to travel that way in the name of safety? I don't think so. The other thing is, if you're concerned about speed, why haven't you implemented speed bumps? That is a viable option that has not been tried, and that program is opening up soon. So thirdly, I want to address something that another resident mentioned about health equity in the community. Our neighborhood, Arlington Heights, actually is one of the most polluted neighborhoods. It's not the most polluted, but it's like next to the most polluted neighborhoods. And you're asking people to drive further distances. And I counted on this call, below Washington, between 6th Avenue and Arlington, there are over 100 structures, and that's not counting multifamily households. So probably about as many cars as the project we were just discussing earlier coming through that neighborhood, and now you're asking them to travel a longer distance to get home. Because recently, they have installed no left-hand turn signs onto West 21st Street. So, and I cannot turn left to get to my house from Washington. So that means I have to travel all the way south to Adams, make a right-hand turn, make another right-hand turn for the poor residents on 6th Avenue who are now going to be experiencing the majority of that traffic that has been diverted to get all the way to my house. And that is not equitable for those residents that live in my neighborhood. And I just want that, we consider all of these options before we move forward, because I just don't think that this is a real problem that is being presented to be. You're talking about safety of kids in the park, but you haven't even installed speed bumps. You haven't considered the traffic impact. You haven't considered the pollution impact, or how much more it costs for people to spend just to get to their houses. So that's just what I wanted to share with you today.
Thanks, Michelle. Next up, we have Zolly.
What happened to Dee? She was first.
Dee's hand went down. Dee,
Okay.
do you still want to speak?
Dee may have disappeared completely.
So Zali, I've unmuted you. You might have to unmute yourself.
There she goes.
Hi, I'm Zali's wife, Rochelle.
Okay.
And I'm on 6th Avenue and 25th, and I've been here for a long time. And I don't care about how long I've been here. I want the place to be safe. I can't get out of my driveway. I watch people near miss hit people walking, pedestrians through this intersection. I don't know if they're coming from Arlington and 24th, but they probably are. They might be coming from 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th. But they're coming down here westbound and eastbound, and they're crashing southbound and northbound in this intersection where I live on a daily basis, all day, all night. It's unsafe everywhere. So if something can be planted somewhere, I'm all for it. I see it on the daily, and I've seen it for years. And I was at 24th Street Elementary taking care of traffic control at my son's school about 10 years ago. And I asked the officers to come out and check the vicinities around here. Of course, they can't be here all the time. For years, I've asked them to come and check this place. My neighbor across the street implemented the 4-way stop over here before I planted on this block. The community is not safe. Everywhere we're blocked. I don't care from Arlington Heights. I went to Arlington Heights Elementary. I lived up the street before I moved down the street. I've seen people get killed time after all the years that I've been in this community, northbound, southbound, right on 6th Avenue. The whole area isn't safe. We got to get it together and get it safe. That's all I want to tell you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rustin. Next up, we have Candace. Candace, I am unmuting you. You might have to unmute yourself as well.
Hi, everybody. I live in the Avenues, and I personally have been on my bike and almost been hit when I have been riding by the park. I usually do a little lap through the park. I come all the way back on each one of the avenues. And not only that, I also bring my neighbor who's 12 years old. And people speed down so fast that they actually take even a wider turn when they turn into the Benny Potter on 25th. I've tried alternating going on to 24th. I've tried that. I've tried different ways, different times. It's just not safe. And the thing that I find really difficult, which was mentioned earlier, was about safety, because I believe in other communities we would not be having to push so hard for safety. It would just be safe. There would be different ways of limiting the traffic that goes through. There would be ways that, you know, one person got injured, okay, we are changing something like this. But when I bike through there, I don't feel safe, and I do everything. I use hand signals and everything. I've been here for many years, and I have really seen a lot at that intersection. And I know a lot of us walk, especially during COVID, a lot of people have been double parked at the park, walking around their cars. And I just find that it's not safe, even if you're a pedestrian just standing out there, let alone on a bike, doing all the correct things that you can do as a biker. And I do support this, and I believe that this is something that is necessary for our park and for our safety. And if you have to drive maybe, you know, 2 or 3 more minutes, wouldn't you do that for the sake of your kids if you have kids, or your grandma, whoever, your neighbors? I really believe that that's important. And this is something that I really, really strongly suggest someone takes their bike. Just go on a little bike ride and see how difficult it is. Go at 4, go at 5, do it at different times, because I have done it in the morning. I've done it at 4, 5, 6. I've even done it past 8 when it's been dark. And that's what I find is really, really challenging.
Great. Thank you, Candace. I see it. Dee Murphy, you're back. I'm going to select you next. I'm going to unmute you. You might have to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry I had to step out and take care of something. I just wanted to say that, first of all, I respect everyone's opinions here very, very much. And I live at 4th Avenue and 25th, and I have lately just seen an increase in traffic, and also just the speed at which people are traveling through the neighborhood. I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I am surrounded by people in this neighborhood with children, and it feels a little bit more unsafe as the weeks go by. And I'm not sure exactly why that is, but people talk about all the stop signs that are here. Well, people are not abiding by those stop signs. People are actually speeding through quite frequently. My husband and my daughter walking across the street were almost hit about a week ago. David, who is a dear friend of mine, I know you mentioned the donuts, but even just an hour ago, someone raced through and did donuts in our intersection and sped through, not adhering by any kind of stop signs. And, we're out even in the evening walking dogs, and my kids play with our neighbors. And so for me, I don't know exactly what the solution might be. And I want, obviously, everyone to have their opinion on how to make this better, but safety is an issue for me. And we've been here almost 4 years, and I've seen it, the safety issue become a bit worse. So that's what I would like to say.
Great, thank you, Dee.
So John, I'm gonna interrupt for 1 second. We need to call on the people whose hands are raised, but we are at 8:27 with one more item after this.
So I would say if anyone has, if you have support anything that's already been said, just please say, I support what has been said, and keep it as minimal as possible. Thanks. Next up is Penny Nixon. I'm unmuting you.
She may have some, there she goes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So I hear both sides of the story, and is it annoying not to be able to make a right there? Yes. Some interesting things have happened in the past couple of months. I've been home because of COVID, and I do notice that people are speeding through our neighborhood. But interestingly enough, I'm outside all the time. I have a little doggy, and I've literally yelled and screamed at people who are driving too fast down 4th Avenue. And guess what? You know where they're coming from? They're coming from 6th Avenue over from across the freeway from Washington and Venice. So I don't see the problem. I mean, I'd be more than willing, and I may sound a little crazy, to sit out on the corner and take a video and take photographs. But I honestly have not seen people just speeding through the neighborhood that way. I am totally against closing off the street. It's going to be very difficult for people. And I truly believe that we need speed bumps, which to me are incredibly annoying. They scrape the bottom of your car. It's not easy, but it will slow people down. And I have to say that they're on 4th Avenue, and I know Chris and Dee, they're flying by on 4th, but I see them coming from 6th Avenue. They come from 6th, they come down from the total opposite direction. They're not coming from Arlington.
Great, thank you, Penny. I'm gonna mute you, and next up we have Ruben Sanchez. I'm gonna unmute you now.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
We can.
Great. Hello, everybody. Thanks for your time. Listen, I just have a couple of comments and questions. I guess the question I have is this proposal to stop or impede traffic on Arlington and or to slow down the traffic around 4th and 25th and the park. If it is Arlington, I'm not sure that that actually accomplishes this, because if you stop people from turning right onto 24th and 25th, I think people only go faster as they're going south. And Arlington does have a speeding issue. I live at 25th and Arlington, and I've seen a number of accidents myself. And so I'm not sure that that resolves that problem. If the issue is more that people are coming from Arlington quickly onto 24th and 25th, and we are trying to slow that traffic down, then I think 2 or 3 others have mentioned speed bumps. And I think that would impede the traffic and create a safer level of speed on those streets. if that in fact is a more practical solution or a better solution. The only thing I would add to that is on 25th and 24th between Arlington and Cimarron, we've had speed bumps recently added, which we're thankful for, but because they're not quite high enough, people still tend to go over them quickly. So I would add that we would probably want to have the Department of Transportation see if they could increase those a little bit to meaningfully slow down the traffic. So a couple of questions from clarification in terms of what this is actually trying to do. Arlington and or the 24th, 25th combination, and then just my comments on the speed bumps. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you, Ruben.
So John, I've seen additional hands go up, but I think I'm gonna say that doesn't count. It's only Beverly and Norma at this point.
Okay, next up, Beverly, I'm unmuting you.
Hi, thank you. And I live on the corner of 6th Avenue and 25th, and my family's been here for 50 some years. And so I totally understand what has happened with 24th and 25th off of Arlington, because I've lived here forever. My family's lived here forever. Coming up Arlington is a problem. So I'd like to add to the fact that I think that we do need to add more speed bumps that are more effective. For those of you who don't live on the corner of 6th Avenue and 25th Street, it is a raceway every day, every single day, going from coming from the park to 6th Avenue and 25th all the way down to 10th. There are stop signs there, no one stops. I mean, no one literally comes to a complete behind a limit line stop. So I also think too, and I've talked to Jeff about this because we did have a pretty bad accident about 6 weeks ago. There were no injuries, but one of the cars was totaled out. And I was thinking that, especially with 6th Avenue, because we do get so much traffic coming across, maybe we can put I think they're called roundabouts, or what are they called, where you actually have to slow down.
Roundabout's right. Roundabout is it.
Yeah, roundabout of some sort, because these people are not slowing down. They are not. And I am going to actually get cameras to actually record this. It's absolutely crazy. So I think we need to come to an agreement where it kind of works for everyone, because I get living and not being able to turn on a street and turning on or off or onto Arlington is a problem for me. The I'm gonna suggest is there something that we can do about the street lights signals at Arlington and Adams? Can we have an arrow? Can we better handle the traffic by really taking a look at the type of traffic lights that are there?
Thank you, Beverly. Next is Norma. I'm unmuting you. Norma, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I don't know. I just have mixed feelings now. Listen to everybody and their opinions and what they think about the traffic and the whole situation. So I do agree with Beverly and somebody else said about the speed bumps. Maybe that's an option. But I know we're looking at safety. I understand that too. We're also looking at convenience. So there's a lot of going on here right now. So I think we should take a look at it more and get a better understanding of what's impacting us as a neighborhood. And I don't know, it's just a lot of mixed feelings I have right now, listening to everybody. But safety is important to me, and also convenience is important to me. So that's something that we have to just take a look at and see what's what. Thank you.
John, I don't know what to do because hands are still going up and we have another item.
Yeah, so it's up.
Well, let's ask, can I just ask Casey, if you're still here with us, how late can you stay? Wherever Casey is.
So let's say.
Wait, John, I'm trying to hear from our next person.
Sorry.
If Casey is still here.
Casey, let me see if he might be muted.
She is.
I'm not trying to speak on item 3.
No, Kate, I know that. I'm wondering if I take a few more hands, how's that going to screw up your schedule?
Well, I would love for us to be able to move on, but I'm not running the meeting, so.
Know that, I'm running the meeting.
Yeah.
I'm trying, I got that, but I was hoping to start by 8:30 on your item. That's what.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, so.
Thank you.
All right, so John.
So, Laura, if people wanted to speak, they should be able to speak, and the next presenter will just have to wait.
So
Come on, these
I'm
are neighbors.
Laura, I'm going to suggest that we just hear from Linda and Scott and cut it off there. So anyone else who wants to raise, I think we have to cut it off. But let's.
You do have to cut it off because I will say that the consensus at this point seems to be that this needs more work because I'm hearing multiple options, and I don't think we're going to move it forward to governing board, but I would like to hear from Linda and from Scott.
Okay.
But I think we then do have to cut it off and move on.
Oh, and I see Helen's still here. Helen, did you have
Well,
something?
and Helen was here at the
Yeah,
very beginning of the meeting.
first.
Well,
Her hand
why
down, but-
don't we just say 1 minute each then?
Yeah, please. Helen, you're unmuted.
Oh, it is really dangerous over there. Also on Arlington, going north and south, people suddenly stop and then try and turn on 24th and 25th, going north and south. And it's really alarming, especially if you're coming off the freeway. And as someone who has gone to a lot of things at South Sea's house, it is very alarming to step out and have these cars whizzing around the corner. And it's a suburban neighborhood. And the really nice thing about the avenues is that you can walk around and the park is right there and there's tons of people and kids. And I would support doing the partial blocking. That's it, thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Helen. Next, Linda, please, I'm unmuting you. Linda?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, we worked on this project since 2012, and we asked for statistics on citations in that immediate area. And there were 357 citations for traffic violations between January and May the 17th. This park serves 80,000 people. It's immediately parallel to one of the most busy freeways in the world. You get ways directing people who are blocked up on the freeway to jump onto 25th and use it as an alternative cut through. I'm very much in favor of this. I've watched people jump the stoplights. I sat there recording with my phone, and 6 out of 10 people did not slow down, much less stop. So the fact that there are a lot of stop signs is completely illusory. And finally, if we could have a show of hands for those who support the closure and those who do not support the closure, I think we can work out whether or not it should go to the governing board rather than just on those people who've managed to talk.
So that will be up to Laura to determine what we vote on and what we don't.
Well, both of us, but I'm sorry, Linda, I said at the beginning of the meeting that if we have a real controversy and a real break in consensus, that I wasn't gonna do the same thing that I don't do at other meetings, which is who has the bigger bus. So it's very difficult when I'm hearing so many other even proposals and where I'm hearing conflicting statistics, none of which have been provided by the city, and no professional evaluation that one thing or another thing would resolve
There
the
was
identified
a
issue.
professional evaluation.
Laura, continue, please.
Well, I'm being told how to run the meeting. So no, I don't really want to see the blue hands. I can see the names and the faces. I know exactly how each person will vote. And I think we're likely to be split down the middle. And some of the people who would be voting may live afar and others would live right in the heart of it. But even those who live in the heart of it have a split opinion. So I personally, and Scott hasn't been able to speak yet, but I personally feel that there needs to be something more worked on before we take this to the governing board. And for two reasons, one of which is we don't have 45-minute discussions at the governing board. We're supposed to be delivering more along the lines of a a motion that has some degree of consensus so we don't do a do-over. So, but, you know, I'm not fully in charge. John's my co-host, and Scott still is patiently waiting to speak his piece.
So Scott, why don't, I'm gonna unmute you, please.
So, hi, this is actually Sahaja. I'm married to Scott. Sorry about the name mix-up, but I wanted to express that I think we're supportive of measures that try and slow down traffic in the neighborhood. We're on 5th Avenue, and so I have a tremendous amount of sympathy for Beverly, who was talking about what happens at 6th and 25th. And I know from my own experience, I avoid turning onto 24th and 25th from Arlington because with traffic speeding behind me, it's like, I feel like I actually end up speeding up to make the turn, and I know that's dangerous, so I don't do it. So all of that in consideration, I think any measure that's gonna try to slow down traffic and protect people on the streets is a good thing. I do hear the concerns about cutting people off from their primary access point to their home, and I wonder if the group has talked about this bollard not prohibiting right-hand turns, but doing something like right-hand turns for local access only. And so that's a question for the group. And then the kind of closing thought I have is that at the end of the day, these issues we're experiencing in the neighborhood along 25th further towards the west are going to take a solution that slows down traffic in a ton of different ways. So roundabouts at 6th and 10th, speed bumps, restricted right-hand turns from Arlington. It's like if the group wants a holistic solution to this area and to really make the park safer, I think it's inevitable that that involves more than just 2 intersections on Arlington. But to me, that's a starting point. And to speak to what Laura said just a minute ago, and I'm new to this, I'm new to the neighborhood, I don't really have a full understanding of the history of the problem, but I mean, a professional study would address holistically what's going on here and hopefully generate some recommendations that everyone can agree on.
Thank you. So Laura, I think that I can't see justice being served no matter which way the vote goes. So it seems to me there needs to be more study. There's been a lot of good suggestions here tonight, and I think voting for it will have problems, and I think voting against it will have problems because voting against it will just cut it off, and there's no path forward. So I would suggest that the parties involved in putting this proposal together take some of what was said tonight and either propose again exactly the same or do something new. But I don't see anything. We usually like to work on consensus, not 49 to 48 votes, and go from there.
I agree with Sahaja, or maybe she was agreeing with me. I do think a holistic approach is very important, and frankly, the holistic approach needs to also include Arlington. I mean, these various Band-Aids going up and down Arlington that are, you know, I've been likening it to the little boy puts his finger, you know, in the dam, but then it bursts over there. Then you put another finger in and it bursts over there. Jeff is upset with me, I'll just be honest, because I quote, I promised it would go to the board. But I don't think it can go to the board this month. You know, not saying it wouldn't go to the board, but I feel like we just need a look, and maybe what needs to go to the board is a funding request for a professional to look at this, to kind of help us create that overall look. Because that is what we do. I mean, what a neighborhood council does is it talks to the city and gives its input. So in this case, how do we slow down the traffic? And I'm not saying it's not bad. I mean, frankly, today I was coming back from Surface, so there I was at 6th and 25th, turned eastbound on 25th, and all of a sudden there's this car honking at me and speeding around me and another car and just blew through all of the stop signs eastbound on 25th. That was attention getting, but it is not at all unusual. If you stand on the corner of 4th and 25th and probably any of those other intersections, 1/3 of the vehicles ignore the stop signs. They just go and go and go. I don't necessarily think bollards and no right turn on Arlington is a solution to that problem, because I'm so cynical that I think the people who break the law will break that law too and just go around the bollards and come on in and speed through. But I don't know that for sure. So I'm sorry, Jeff, because you're saying I promised, but I promised to hold a meeting with a good discussion. It just sounds like there's so many good ideas here that I would like to have those good ideas discussed at a greater length.
I think if we did take a vote on it, no matter what way, this discussion would be transferred to governing board, exactly what we're discussing tonight for pros and against, because there would be the final call on it. And I don't see it being productive.
Yeah. No, I don't see it being productive at all because, So
that said, how do we, what's the
well,
protocol?
I would like to say, and Jeff, the council office can help with this, I would really like to say it'd be really great to bring a professional in, have a design charrette sort of situation, but a professional in traffic mitigation to talk about all of the different possibilities, because I heard some really interesting ones today. And that included, was it Sahaja? I don't even know. I'm losing track. Is it possible to have a sign that just says no right turn, limited access? And people will ignore it, but maybe some people won't ignore it. In other words, what are some of the other possibilities? Is it possible to slow down the traffic exiting the freeway, if that's really the source, by having not a traffic circle, but a kind of a green space, so you immediately are going real slow the minute you head southbound on Arlington, and another bump out with greenery at 24th, another bump out with greenery at 25th Street. So it's not preventing the right turns, but it's signifying that you must go slow because you have to drive around it. Those are expensive.
So
but there's other ideas. So we need a professional.
For this evening, how do we bring this to a reasonable closure but continue the conversation?
Well, since it's 10 of 9 and we should have ended this conversation at 8:30, I think we just say it's over. Are you good with that, John? Nobody in this room is going to be good with it, but are you and I good with that?
I wish we had some thing to say that would be official, that would move it forward in some fashion, rather than just closing it, because then we have no action.
Well, no, but I mean, I don't know how to make an action that mandates getting a professional traffic mitigation expert and bringing everybody together, but that would be my suggestion. I really think the council office would have to somehow get involved with that too. I also, no, I'm not gonna, I just can't say anything more. With due respect, there's been another applicant in the room for 2 hours, and we really need to move on to the next item.
Okay, so no action. Okay.
Right. Okay. Sorry. I'm guessing I'm going to see a lot of people leaving the room. Yes, there goes Diane. Okay, moving on to the chat has 11 chats. Okay. So I'm going to ignore the chat and introduce our next item, which is, and this is an initial review. We're probably not voting anything tonight, so, but it's an initial review. DIR-2020-3490 SPP. That's a specific plan clearance. And Casey, you need me to make you a co-host, is that correct? So that you can be unmuted. Is Casey unmuted yet?
I'm here.
And I am going to make you a co-host if you want to share the screen. I do have the plans and an application, but if you have a presentation, that's
So I would just say thank you for having us tonight. We literally just found out on Sunday evening that we were going to be here. So this is
sorry about that.
Yeah. So this is a draft presentation, but I represent West Angeles Church in this project. I'm a resident of the area. I've been in the area for 25 years. And what we're doing is project permit compliance, which is, as I understand it, a non-discretionary action. And we are basically what the church is doing is consolidating its current activities onto a unified campus. So I'm going to share a screen.
You know how, right?
I do.
Okay.
And then if people have questions, I'm open to answering them. So can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, I'm trying, there we go. So West Angeles Church, the main cathedral, is located at 3600 Crenshaw at the corner of Crenshaw and Exposition. This is Bishop Charles Blake and Lady May Blake. Charles Blake has been running the church, I believe, for the last 50 plus years and just celebrated his 80th birthday. West Angeles Church has been located in the Adams Crenshaw corridor since 1955. It's a community serving church. It has Sunday services. It provides counseling center, enrichment and education programs for teens, free Thanksgiving dinner, lots of activities for both members of the church and community members. Anybody's welcome to come up to the church at any time for all of the various things that they offer. And as I said, the Family Life Center consolidates the church's activities onto a unified campus. Originally, this project was approved in ZA cases that were approved in 1994 and 1996. At that time, those approvals contemplated 163,000 square feet of building space, including the cathedral, which was built. And so these approvals were actually vested, and I listed here what those approvals at that time contemplated. So the reason we have this application is because since those approvals in the mid-90s, the zoning changed through the specific plan. It used to be a CM or industrial zone. Now it's a C2 zone and a transit adjacent zone to the train. And so we went in to basically formalize the fact that these were previously approved entitlements, but kind of fit them within the current specific plan, which, as you've mentioned earlier today, has reduced parking requirements. What we're building is an administrative building that's 40,000 square feet. It's multi-use, so it has a chapel, it has a fellowship hall, it has counseling center, it has services for kids and young adults and teens and classrooms, and it's on 4 stories. And then we're also building a 400-car parking structure, which replaces an existing 250 stalls on site, including electric vehicle parking within that structure. Why is this not moving to the next page? Sorry. Oh, I don't know why it's not moving. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
You moved it 2 pages, but it's pretty.
Okay, so these are some images of what it will look like when it's done. This is on, you're looking from 36th Street. And I'm not sure why I'm having a problem, but there you go. This is also from 36th Street. This is the existing cathedral. This is the new chapel, which is lower in height because it's across the street from residential. And this is the multi-use building behind. This is a contemplation garden that we're going to have between the structure and the building. And this is the view from Exposition Boulevard of the parking structure, which is designed within all of the specifications of the specific plan, including all of the design guidelines, green walls, setbacks, etc. And why is this? This will create approximately 800 to 900 jobs during COVID, which I think is an amazing feat. And we are self-committing to a diversity and inclusion program to hire 30% of jobs on the project that will be diverse jobs and diverse companies, as well as local hire. So with that, we're self-imposing that on ourselves, and we're very proud of the work that we're going to be doing in that regard. We have an outreach strategy. We're going to have some virtual events for hiring, as well as some in-person events in the parking lot behind the church, where we're going to have what's called some boot camps, and where we can hire folks directly on the job from that boot camp. And we're also going to be doing some mentorship programs so that subcontractors who may not be able to get bonding on their own could be coming under somebody as an umbrella to get some bonding. We're reaching out to several organizations in that regard. And I'll keep it there. I missed a couple slides for some reason, which I'm going to try to see if I can get back to. Oh, here we go. So this is the site, and this is where the project will go. And just to speak to parking for a minute, what we did is the original approvals required 1,100 parking spaces when they were done back in the mid-90s. And because of the specific plan and the requirement of 50 to 90% of code, which is within the specific plan, the new requirement is 496 spaces. That's at 50%. And because this is a building that's ancillary to the church, no new parking is required. I know there was a comment earlier in the evening about too much parking. As you know, the church already has a 500-car parking garage up the street right about here. And so between the two, there'll be 900 spaces, 500 here and 400 here. And we believe we did a parking study, and we believe that's sufficient to accommodate the demand that will be coming from the uses on site. And the church has, like I said, it will be consolidating all of its uses onto a unified campus. So basically, it won't be creating any new traffic because it's moving from up the street. So currently, they have a facility up the street, and all of that eventually will be consolidated down here. So I'm going to stop sharing unless you want me to leave my screen up for some reason.
Casey, why don't you leave it up for a little bit? Okay. I actually have a question. I saw on building and safety that actually it's for the existing 500 parking space parking structure. Building and safety has just approved a covenant of 247, or half those spaces.
That is correct.
This project. But here's my on a practical basis, not on a technical or approval basis. What I believe is true is that on Sundays, the parking lot is pretty full with the church, but on the work, Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday, it's Union Bank's staff is supposed to be using it. I don't think they are. I mean, in other words, when we got approvals on the Jefferson and Crenshaw project, the 14 spaces from that project plus any overflow were to go into that parking structure, and then Metro has some parking. So how does that work on not Sunday? On Sunday, the bank is closed on Sunday, the medical center is closed on Sunday.
Right.
Yeah, but how does this overlapping parking work?
So we commissioned a parking study that looked at parking usage 7 days a week at all different times of the day, including first Sundays, which are the busiest Sundays at the cathedral, different days of the week, different times of the day. So we did that study on our own, wasn't required. To my knowledge, and I don't have intimate knowledge of that Union Bank approvals, but we looked extensively at whatever covenants were off-site parking covenants existed on that 500-car parking structure, as well as pre-existing off-site parking covenants in the area. So what we did, there was an off-site parking covenant at the 500-car parking structure reflecting this 1,100 spaces. That was the originally approved entitlements back in the mid-90s. And we were able to, because we reduced the parking requirement because of the specific plan, we were able to remove what was a 500-car covenant to satisfy this 1,100 spaces and reduce it to 247. So I know that sounds kind of complicated,
Yeah,
but
I'm interrupting. It's just that my concern and is that I always want that shopping center, or more importantly, the historic Bank of Tokyo building, to thrive. So when we got that through, working with Shaul and CIM, and West Angeles is the other partner, there's a variance for 14 spaces. So 14 parking spaces, in theory, have to be in the parking structure. Now, people just park where they park, but technically 14 out of 500 belong to the shopping center. And then it was for, quote, overflow. And the reason is because the original project proposal at Jefferson and Crenshaw was to demolish the Bank of Tokyo building. And instead of demolishing it, 2/3 of it is still standing and the rear part is gone. But that was to be parking for the project. So
so again, Laura,
got moved, but on a practical basis, is there still parking? That's the only
on a
thing.
practical basis, yes, there's still parking, and we have a parking study to substantiate that.
Which is really my concern. Can everybody thrive?
Yes.
Perfect. That was my question. John, you have your hand up?
Well, I from a aesthetic architectural point of view, I support this because the church always looked kind of empty there, surrounded by streets and parking lots. So I support this backdrop for the church. I think it'll make a more cohesive complex for the organization, which I applaud. So I have two questions. Is this fully compliant with zoning, or is there a special request?
There's no special request. This is fully compliant with zoning in the specific plan.
So this is a reaching out to us as a good neighbor, just to share what you're doing.
Well, they're showing, I'm going to interrupt. Online, what it shows is a master, there's an SPP clearance that is required. So, but in the specific plan, Crenshaw specific plan, they have sub areas, and this is within sub area A. Sub-area A does not have a design review board, so there's never a public hearing for a specific plan compliance, but it is a very small entitlement, just like Asher on the Depot has a small entitlement. It's not a major entitlement, it's just compliance with a specific plan.
Yes, so there's no deviation from the standards.
Correct.
Correct.
So that's my first question. My second question is, when the project across the expo starts, which West Angeles is part of, does this parking garage play into any, is it linked to that in any way, providing parking?
Not at all.
Weekdays, so it's totally independent, and there's no plans to have it linked with what's going on across the street.
That's correct. And just to be clear, and this is a little nuance, that is across the street, I believe, is the West Angeles CDC, which is separate from the church.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. I don't even know which across the street you're talking about, John.
The Cross Expo, the
Metro Crossing.
Project, yeah.
Oh, the Metro project.
Yeah, that's separate from the church. And the CDC is a separate entity.
You're right.
Okay. Well, I see a couple of hands, and I guess I should also say that shopping center was also West Angeles CDC and not the church itself.
Yes.
So that might be why, Casey, you don't have all the information from 12 years ago.
Right.
But trust me, Shaul is carrying it around in his head because he even mentioned it 2 weeks ago at Ethan's meeting. Ethan, you're up.
Hey, thanks, Laura. I have one question for Casey. I just want a better understanding. If you can go to the slide that shows the site plan from probably from the top. Yeah, right there. That's great. Just no, one more.
That one?
No. Go to the one
you had up.
That shows the parking lot. That's perfect. Thank you, Casey. Just a quick question. So, is the parking structure going to go where the existing commercial building is at? Is that going to be torn down?
No. So the whole project goes in this trapezoidal piece of land right here. And we're actually maintaining this as an access, not as a through street, but as an access. So the whole project goes here, and I can show you on the next page.
So the question, okay, thank you. Okay. I'm just trying to make it all out. And then where, and so can you just put your mouse where the parking structure is at?
Right here.
Oh, got you. Okay, so the parking structure is going to go on the south side of the lot.
South side, that's
The
correct.
building will go on the north side
Here's
of the lot.
the building. And then
Got you.
if you look at the, I'm sorry, my computer isn't behaving, but
No.
so this is 36th Street. And we have this really nice, beautiful exterior here.
I follow.
And then this is Exposition.
I follow. So, and so Casey, just this is for my own, and so it's me just being nosy. But I remember when this was first talked about when the cathedral was being built, and it was talked about it was to be built where that existing warehouse is at. Is there going to be a phase 2 to build on that, or is there a reason
Well,
why?
right now we have no plans for this building. This is owned by the church, and it's we don't have any specific plans at this time.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, Rosie? Oh, you're muted.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so on the 36th Street, during construction, is that gonna be closed off for the neighborhood? They won't be able to go through 36?
No, the street will not be closed.
It'll never be closed.
Correct. I mean, I can't say that right now we have no plans to close it. You know, if you need it for, you know, an hour or two for something during construction, but as of now, we have no plans to close that street.
And how long is construction?
Our estimated construction is 18 months, and we'll be subject to all rules and regulations related to construction in terms of noise and hours and dust control and all of the things that are usual and customary. But there's no plans to close the street at any time.
Okay.
So Rosie, I think if you're worried about the impact on the residential up and down 36, I think it is also true that we have 3 or 4 projects on this access. I mean, I see Asher has his hand up, but remember, we've got a project on the corner of Crenshaw and 36. I think I've got the right address where that mess of a auto-related shop is. It's going to be a tier 4.
Yeah, Sweet Greens, and we have.
No. I'm talking about Crenshaw. Right across.
No, I'm saying in that area for 36, you have Sweet Greens, and you have the church now. You have the auto repair shop.
Yes.
It's just a lot of construction, a lot of.
all at the same time. So hopefully that means a lot of people get work. But yeah, so 36 may well be, in answer to your question, on a practical basis, but with 4 projects, and maybe Sweet Greens will be finished before the other 3 start. But on a practical basis, yeah, 36 is going to be impacted, I think. I think that would be true. Asher.
Hey, Casey. I've talked to Casey before and know the church very well. Obviously, we thought a lot about this area too. And I'd like to, it's more a proposal or thought experiment than anything, but so much of what we're trying to do in this area is green space, and bringing trees, plants, etc. in. And I see that you've also done that. I wonder if there is any potential, and if we could go to the exposition side with the parking garage. I see some green growing up that parking garage. Trust me, we're in the same boat. It's not always easy to create green space, but that difference between that parking garage being bare concrete prefab structure and having those vines move up the garage could literally be the make or break, not only for aesthetics, but also for potentially allowing exposition to eventually grow into a pedestrian-friendly street. And it's something that we're working on very hard too, to try to open up the corner of 11th. an exposition, as well as Degnan an exposition, and then 11th. What we've been trying so hard to do is open up those streets to more walking. And, you know, if there's any way we can ideate about the parking structure, not allowing cars or funneling cars in and out of that entrance as shown, that would be amazing. And if that's not possible, then just creating as much green cover as possible would be great too. Just so at some point, hopefully someday, when the station is in, the new Watt developments are in, the 36th and Crenshaw development is in, we can actually have this be a truly walkable destination, because the truth is we cannot continue to drive like we're driving in this world. The planet can't take it. And I just hope that we can all work together to try and address parking needs today, while also looking forward to a future when we have more green space, more shade, and less parking kind of tomorrow. And so I won't say anything more than that. I'm happy to think through it with you. We're in this too. I'm doing the same thing that you're doing, but I'm just so committed to creating some shade here, because it is hot. It's really hot. I hope exposition can one day be pedestrian friendly. That's it.
And David Sapper?
Sorry, I need to take myself off mute. Kind of on the same topic, what is going to be done to assist in lighting the exposition side to encourage pedestrian traffic? I know the Crenshaw side of the cathedral, as someone who takes the expo line and uses the Metro lease spaces in the 500 space garage, walking by the cathedral after dark is one of the most dimly lit experiences ever. Luckily they've started to turn the lights on, but even when they're on, it's pretty dim. For years, they wouldn't even turn the lights on at night. But it's not pedestrian friendly at all due to the lighting. And so what is being done to rectify that in the new construction?
So we have a lighting consultant, and we're definitely interested in making a safe and friendly environment around this campus, both for the safety of those who are utilizing it in the evenings as well as during the day and on the weekends, but also the neighborhood. So we do have a lighting consultant, and we are looking at that and making sure that this project is well lit on all four sides.
Yeah, and possibly because this comes so much closer to the street, but the fact the cathedral sits so far off of Crenshaw,
yeah,
it provides almost no light on the sidewalk.
Well, I'll make sure I carry that recommendation back to the design team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions, comments? Casey,
I would just say, I would just say this is an institution that's been in the area for a very long time, doing a lot of good work, and is unlike a lot of conversations that there have been about displacement. This is not a story of displacement. This is a story of an institution that's been in the neighborhood, being able to continue to stay in the neighborhood and contribute to it in a positive way.
Yes. I was just going to say, echoing both Asher and David Sapper, I would hope that as we have two stations, both the Expo line and the Crenshaw line, so people are getting off those trains and walking home or walking up Crenshaw to sadly, unhealthily get a burger at Burger King or whatever. Stuff, go shopping, whatever they're doing. It would be great if we had better lighting, more tree cover, both on Crenshaw and on Expo, however that is accomplished. Now, I know there was $3 million in, I'm forgetting the kind of funds, but there was money to do trees and other improvements that the money's just, I don't know where it is. I don't know where it disappeared to. It was supposed to have trees on Jefferson, trees on Crenshaw. So I think we need to work to find out where the heck, it was Prop A, Prop 3, Prop something. And I have some old records, but not new ones, but we should really try and find out where the heck it is, because the money has not been spent here the way it was supposed to be, and see if we can green up things. That would be one mutual goal that we could work on. But it's true that we should encourage people to walk between the train and their destination. So whether the destination is the corporate headquarters for Sweet Green, your church, the shopping center where Union Bank is, Burger King, or whatever, it'd be nice that the walk be pleasant and shaded and lit at night. So
Okay.
however
So-
we can accomplish that.
Are there any more? I have a motion,
Oh,
if I may. I move for the committee to recommend to the UNNC Governing Board to support the project as presented with the following qualifications. Project is built in substantial conformance with the presentation, and also to look to mitigate the visual impact of the garage on exposition with consideration for more greenery on the hot south side, provide more greenery throughout the complex, including using local greening funds previously allocated, and to look at lighting the project adequately for pedestrians passing by all sides of the entire church project.
okay. Casey, are you okay with us doing a motion? The agenda, it said possible motion.
I'm okay with that. I would just want to qualify that we have designed this within the constructs of the specific plan, both for the structure and the green wall and all of that. So we're willing to work with the community. I'm not aware of these funds that you're talking about. So if there's something that we can understand where we might be able to access some funds, obviously the church, like everybody else, is hurting during this time financially.
Exactly.
And so adding to our budget is not really an option, but we would be happy to work towards that if there's some funding resources for it.
So
Okay,
my
yeah,
motion-
I can
my
tell you
motion-
it's Prop 1C. I've got it on my computer. It's Prop 1C, and it started in 2009 with $15 million. I said $3 million. So I just don't know where the money went.
So, I mean, we're willing to look into that, right? But I can't promise to add to our budget, and we are designed within the specific plan guidelines and what's required of us. So if that's.
No, this would be public, this is public realm stuff we're talking about anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, in other words, what the church can do more effectively even than UNNC is say to leadership at city council, where's the money? Why wasn't it spent the way it's supposed to be spent? We need, because this is public realm, the street lighting, the greenery.
Street lighting and, yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
Kate,
so,
As long as that's not, added to our.
right.
Yes.
And Laura, I apologize, this is Ash. I just want to say, Casey, if you want to chat with me offline, I'm happy to contribute a little bit to some green. I really believe in it, and if you guys are struggling with budget, if there's a way that I can help, I would like to. I mean, I don't want to. I can't commit anything. My partners aren't on the line, but I am committed to it. So if you want to have a chat offline, I'd love to think through some ideas.
We can talk about that, and we do have a landscape architect, and we've added as much greenery and open space as we can to this project.
So my motion stands. It's not, obviously, it's a by right project from what I see, with some minor approvals from so my motion stands.
Your motion stands at very long lengths. Okay. So
I'll second that. This is David. I'll second that.
okay. So I say moved by.
I got it, Laura.
Okay. Just make sure it's in chat who moved, who seconded, because so everybody knows the chat gets saved, and so this becomes not just our minutes but the motion on the board agenda. So,
Laura, because
I'm looking at, yes, I haven't read it yet. So when you say look to, you mean consider,
Yeah, consider.
not require.
Yes, look to is, I think this is our opportunity just to tell the applicant.
I'm okay with that.
What our concerns are.
Okay.
Do you want to change it to consider mitigating and,
So
Yes,
I think,
you know, we can't edit chat. We can just write an amendment.
and generally we make the final motion for the board. We wordsmith this a little bit. So
okay, I'm okay with this as I can agree to that.
Look to means consider. Here, look to means consider.
Yes.
Okay, not require.
Sure. It's hard to wordsmith on the fly. Okay.
And how do we raise our hands again? I don't.
Oh, you no longer can because I made you a co-host. So, Casey, you just raise your hand like this.
I'll raise my hand.
Yeah, just like that. What? No, it's the weirdness of Zoom. So we can't raise our hands.
No, but everybody else can raise their hands. Is that right?
They certainly can. They certainly can.
I like to
So
call
I
the
would
question.
appreciate it if people are supportive of us, if they could raise their blue hands.
So, Laura, could we call the question?
Yes.
Wait,
Okay.
I had a
Okay, am I hearing? Yes, everybody who is supportive of this, please raise your blue hand. Noting that John and I don't have a blue hand. Okay. And if, I'll give it another moment. And then if you bring your hand, I'm not counting, I can see a vast majority.
I see 1, 2, 3. I only see 8 or so.
Oh, no, there's more. Maybe there aren't. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're right. It's only 8, 9. But wait a minute. I see Muse's phone, whoever that is, that's a 9. I'm a 10. John, you may be an 11. Casey's a 12.
So I'm gonna lower.
Well,
all
there's
hands down.
other people on this call that I know would raise their hands that aren't, so I'm not sure.
But you don't, Casey, you don't know that they didn't just order pizza and go to the door and get it.
Exactly.
So I'm gonna lower all the hands and ask for anyone opposed. Anyone opposed?
I see no
Mike,
opposition.
I had 1 opposed.
Oh.
So we have 12 for the motion.
Oh no,
1
Muse is voting 2 ways. So whoever that is still has their hand up.
Yeah, that's I know who that is. That's not somebody who's opposed.
Okay, so Muse, if I'm gonna
Okay, the point is motion passes.
motion passes.
Okay.
It's either 12 to 1 or 11 to 0 or 12 something.
Yeah. Motion passes. So
can you explain to me what the follow-up here is?
Well, here's the thing, because we don't know the timing. This will not, well, actually, I could put it on the governing board agenda. You know, the governing board meets on the 1st of October. So I can put this on just to, affirm the motion. I tried last month and it was very effective, is that I put the motions themselves right onto the agendas and we just sped right through them. So I could put it on our agenda. Do you know, again, from Kyle or Sergio, any sort of time frame that they're going to give you, any sort of say, yay, you're fine? Because it looks like it's just not moving anywhere. In the case summary, it doesn't seem to have motion.
No, I mean, I think we're moving. What's the next date after the 1st?
It would not be again, and well, I don't know why you'd want to put it off. But the next, next board meeting, well, maybe because you want to be present. The next board meeting would be Thursday, November 5.
I think we can do it on the 1st, and it's in the evening. This time is in the evening, correct?
Yes, it's in the evening, and when we have actual presenters, I try to have that earlier in the agenda.
And if there's no opposition and it's recommended in support, is there usually a presentation, or is it just is it on consent?
A 5-minute presentation max.
Okay.
Right. And then we try to do 5 minutes max discussion and just move on.
Okay.
I say try. My board will tell you that we've had already a few Zoom meetings past 11 o'clock at night, but not for land use. I mean,
Okay,
we
so
any
I think we can go on the first, and I'll be prepared if a presentation is needed, or we can go on consent, whichever.
And I would say, since your goal is to outreach, it's always good to make sure the neighborhood knows what's going on. It's always good policy.
Well, I would say, given that we had this major other issue and we still have 27 people on the call and we had 50 some at some point, this was a good exercise in outreach because we don't always have this many, but Zoom does make it more accessible to people.
Okay, so we'll see you on the first, and I'll get some sort of email ahead of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna sign off now. I don't think I need to stay for your business.
No.
The rest.
Yeah. So so we have the next item is a nothing follow up to previous cases, ENS and old business.
Okay. Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye. And the next item, number 6, public comments. Are there any public comments on items we didn't just have on the agenda? Oh, Rosie.
Well, I had my hand up. Can you hear me?
Now
I had my hand up earlier before they started doing the voting, because I had a general comment that had to do with all 3 of those. Yeah. Can I make it now, or I can't make it now?
It's fine. Go ahead. They're not here anymore to hear it, but go ahead. Sorry.
I was just thinking, you have Sweet Greens, you have this West Angeles, you have the parking people not the parking people, but the new structure they're building that Asher is doing, and also the location on the corner of the old repair shop. Have any of those entities even went into the community, say, what can we do for the community? How can we maybe paint 250 houses? How can we maybe spruce up some lawns? How can we maybe do some of the roofs? How can we become part of this community? Because all of a sudden now we have all these new industrial places here on Exposition Place and surrounding areas, and it doesn't seem like they're even reaching out to the community saying, what can we do to feel like we're doing something for the community? We're just coming in and saying, here, we're here, we're just here. And you take it or leave it, and that's it, that's all.
Right, well, I don't know. Oddly enough, as major as these projects are, they have very few entitlement requests. Even that, the Tier 4 TOC, I mean, it's a major project, but it was almost completely by right. And that is the way it is now with development. So what you're talking about is how do we get them, I don't feel comfortable saying, what are you going to give us? But I think the real thing is, how do we get all of these companies, or not the developers, but the final people, engaged in our community so that they make ongoing contributions. And I don't know how we do that. So it's not an us versus them situation. I mean, we want them to be us as time goes on. And I think Asher, is beginning to try. I don't know if he's still here or not. But what you're asking for would be what the city would call, or the city attorney would call, private development agreements. And the city is not, and thus the neighborhood council, not allowed to approve or disapprove those. They exist outside of land use and planning and zoning matters. And they exist all over town, but they exist outside the city. The city attorney will not allow, for example, the planning commission to approve a private development agreement either. But I understand exactly what you're asking for. And Ethan has his hand raised as well.
Hey, Laura, just a comment to kind of piggyback on what Rosie was saying, and something I said earlier about, I've been listening to a lot of public radio, been doing a lot of reading, and I discussed it earlier about, these heat islands that these large complexes bring on. And even Asher alluded to it with the heat that's going to come off the project there at the church. And, you know, I just want the neighborhood council to really, and I know that things are by right and we're not supposed to vote on certain things with emotion, but there are people who live here, right? There are people who lived here for generations and their families live here and they're multi-generations in their houses. And across the country, people in the urban spaces, particularly Black and brown people, are being impacted versus people that live in the suburbs. And so, you know, you made a comment about not holding the developers accountable, but holding the leasees accountable. But I think it's the developers and the leasees that should have some sort of empathy and take into account how neighbors are going to be impacted. Because as you know, Laura, you've been a neighbor for a long time. Laura Rosie's been a neighbor for a long time. Everybody in the call right now has been on the call for a long time. And we're probably going to give our houses when we go to the other side to one of our family members that will be here for a long time. So we just really want to make sure that we're giving the community members a fair, we're not impacting their quality of life for developers. That's it. Thank you for allowing my comment.
Right. Sandra has her hand up.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what both Ethan and Rosie said. I think it's a great concept, and we need to maybe think about how we can incorporate going forward when we have these sessions, when developers come in and ask that question, because absolutely, it may feel like it's a us versus them, but at the end of the day, it is an us versus them. And they're getting a lot out of our community. And a lot of the community people that live here have limited resources. And we need to try to figure out a way to benefit both parties. So it's just, you know, I think it's a great idea. And I know, you know, we see it more aligned with when Metro comes in or when the airport does something, but it's nothing wrong with asking for it and seeing what could be done. If we don't ask, we won't know if we'll get anything. So again, I appreciate what Rosie and Ethan shared, and I agree with them wholeheartedly.
Right.
That's it.
Yes, I'm truly not saying I disagree. I'm just trying to explain that the city attorney wouldn't allow us to include these kinds of agreements in a land use approval. So how do we ask for it, was my question. How do we try to implement asking for benefits for the community where we aren't able to include it in an approval for an entitlement? I don't necessarily know the answer. I mean, I don't know if it should be through this committee or through an economic development committee that is trying to get its feet off the ground, for example. I don't know if we should be creating long, you know, how this committee has created sort of a list of things we ask for on entitlements, like use native plants if you can, not just pretty green things, but try to use natives. These days we're asking often for where's the ride share drop-off pickup place on your design. If you're building on the Washington or Jefferson and or Pico, where's the, you know, is your design compatible with commercial, streetcar commercial? I mean, we have certain things, kind of policies from this committee that we can feel comfortable asking. Is there a list of community benefit things that we should be incorporating? How do we create that list? Is it appropriate from this committee, or is it appropriate from the Economic Development Committee, but then used by this committee? I don't know the answer, but it might be a good agenda item for our next meeting to have a good discussion on this. If you guys think that's a good idea, because maybe developing a list that we can just, that I have the ability to send an applicant, say, we voted on this, can you accommodate it, would be good. Ethan, your hand is up. Is it up again, or is it still up?
Hey, Laura, yes, it is. I just want to make one comment. I think what you're saying is good, because you're right. At this point, we're just all pontificating. But maybe it is, and I know in the past at UNNC meetings, there's been times when presentations were done, like for the first half an hour. But maybe we UNNC should have a presentation from, because there's a lot of people that have written and done studies about, urban building and heat index and emissions and health. But somebody to come in and give a presentation for the council as well as the community about how large scale urban projects do impact the community, just so that everybody has that education and that knowledge. So I think maybe that might be a good starting point, because some people might not know about, adding a 40,000 square foot building, how that is going to impact with heat index or emissions or,
Right.
the long-term impact of that.
Well, but there's another thing we just talked about tonight that could also be on the list of maybe more community benefits, which is the question, are you participating in the city's 1% for Art program? If yes, can you use a local artist, for example? So, I mean, it might be worthwhile developing a kind of standard list, the way we've already developed some other standard lists that are more specific to the land use. And yeah, and have somebody come and talk to, I mean, in other words, this is not something we can do in a day. I mean, this might be a series of conversations that result in something like that. Because I will tell you that the template that we use for, again, buildings on Jefferson or buildings on Washington, which is the template from the proposed Washington Boulevard specific plan from 2004. But that was developed over a year and 3 months with 30 or 40 meetings with community groups, with business groups. I mean, it was a long time in its development to come to a 13-page document that we still use today. And that the board, pre everybody's time except mine, unfortunately, tells you how long I've been involved. Anyway, Rosie has her hand up, and then it is 20 of 10, so we probably should end the meeting pretty soon. Rosie?
At 3644, the old Prop D, has that been sold by?
I'm sorry, 3644 what?
10th Ave. That used to be the old Prop D cannabis spot on the corner.
I'll look. Hang on.
I was because I just see that it looks a little different now, because on that street, a lot of different things end up being bought by Olsen, then being sold by Olsen.
Well, 3644 would be on the east side of this. You don't mean, that can't be the, what street? Not 10th. 36.
I'm sorry, 11th Ave. 11th Ave.
Got it. Try that again, because that would be a single family home on 10th. So 36. So it's the one right on the corner, right?
Right. It used to have a for sale sign, and then I don't see the for sale sign, but I see like people who are patrolling to make sure nobody breaks in.
Well,
over there.
Well, on the assessor tape that shows on ZMS, the last sale was 2013. So I can't answer the question tonight. I can look into it. Meaning I can get more updated information, but it's not showing on ZMS as any sort of sale. So,
all right, thank you.
I mean, I can look it up on real estate sites, but not in the middle of this meeting.
Mm-hmm. And Laura, this is Ethan. I just have one more follow-up comment to something you said. You were saying about the culture, the Department of Cultural Affairs and their
it's a program that's not new. 1% for art is not new at all.
But and so I wanted to make a follow-up comment on that, on why art on buildings is important, because with a large board like UNNC, a member might say, well, why is it important to have art on a building, right? But it is important, right? It is important. It adds value to the neighborhood, and it could possibly allow for somebody, a local artist, to have their item showcased. So I just think, again, just the more knowledge and education that the board members and the community can have, I think the better. Because I didn't know about how art on a building adds value until I listened to a story on NPR, and they talked about how even adding words on a building, drawn by an artist, adds value to the building, but also adds value to the neighborhood. So just want the best for the community.
Right. Well, here's the thing. The city has what's called the 1% for art program, but it actually applies in two ways. On major construction, 1% of the deemed to be construction costs is supposed to be devoted to public art. And then projects in excess of 500,000 also are supposed to do some sort of art. However, the building developers are given some options. They can do it, they can give money to a fund, or sometimes if they've hired a fancy schmancy architect, they can make the claim that the architecture itself is the 1% for art. So John's probably had some luck, you know, luck is not the right word. John, your firm may have had some of those, right? Because you guys are fancy schmancy architects, right?
We have, the only one I'm involved with is in North Hollywood. It was part of a CRA district. But I do agree with Ethan. We have a project in South LA that we provided walls specifically designed for murals that face at the intersection of Jefferson and Central. But yes, I agree with Ethan. It's an important thing.
Right. No, I agree with you too. But what I'm saying is what we've experienced here is most of the developments have chosen to donate funds to a citywide fund instead of giving us the art. So maybe one of the things we want to be adding to this list that doesn't exist is that the art fund is retained at site.
Agreed. I see where you're going with it, Laura, and I agree. I didn't know that was the guideline.
Oh, it's been around for years and years and years. I mean, the whole time I've been in this neighborhood, you know, remember I was on a CRA, well, maybe you don't remember. I was on a CRA Project Area Advisory Committee from 1989 till the death of CRA, and we were able to retain those. Nobody was able to just put money in a fund and spend it elsewhere. We were able to.
It's of course, the city makes everything difficult. The process to spend arts fund on your own project is lengthy and onerous. Yes. Of course, art is in the eye of the art viewer.
Yes.
And how you select the artist and what is the art. And generally, I mean, you select an artist and they do what they think, what they feel, which is fine, but it's not necessarily what the neighborhood feels or the
it's the opposite of not necessarily. The neighborhood has no vote.
No vote.
No vote whatsoever. And also what is the meaning of the word local artists? You know, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, and should it be, you know, this is a broad question and we're really moving off, you know, far afield, but you know, I have an art background. Should it be a local folk artist or should it be an important, quote, important artist, meaning as the art world would say, an artist who engages in the contemporary discourse of aesthetics. So there's that group of artists and their work is what's usually least popular in a neighborhood. So it's an interesting slippery slope, but I think Metro has done it very well in terms of the art and artists they have chosen, you know, for the various light rail lines. I think the art that is probably already, we just haven't seen it yet, in the stations along the Crenshaw line were mostly the artists are artists of color, if that's the right way to say people of color, BIPOC. But they're also very well-known artists, but they're not necessarily local artists. So that, you know, that's the rub. So I think we can have more discussion, but probably not tonight. So, but would you guys want me to make this a P and Z agenda item to have a deeper discussion sometime soon?
Yes. Yes. My vote is yes.
Okay. All right. But Miss Laura would like to end the meeting. How about everybody else?
No, let's keep going.
Yeah,
no, I'm kidding.
Sandra, let's what do you want to talk about?
I'm kidding. Laura, you've got to stay though. No,
but I will say, I mean, you know, Ethan, just to a different point about the many years some of us have been here and or our families, like everyone else across America in the time of COVID, I've spent some time doing family genealogy because you can. And I now know that my family was here a lot longer than I thought. Here meaning on Westview and on Buckingham and on Virginia Road, and starting in the 20s, right, you know, just on the other side of Crenshaw. And I'm finding their addresses in directories and census pages. And, you know, it's interesting the layers of history that we have here, and the length of time that people have their roots here. So, and that would be something important to communicate to new developers in our community.
Absolutely. And Laura, on that same note, same way the new developers need to understand that in this community, there were racial covenants that Black people were not allowed to buy houses. And so there are family members and families that have been here that fought against those covenants that, you know, and you know the history of it, but that was also need to be discussed.
I definitely know the history of it.
Right. And that needs to be discussed.
Because Ethan, I'm going to say it wasn't, Jews were in the covenants, meaning they couldn't buy homes.
Gotcha. Right. Yeah. And so that's why and so that needs to be discussed too, on that. Yeah, there are families that have the stake has been in the ground for a long time, and they are passionate about the area, and they are passionate about the changes, and who, you know, just wanting to be the good neighbors.
Right. Right. No, I mean, right. So, you know, some of this is really
a lot of people forget about a lot of people forget about the racial covenants, you know, and we just want to just, you know, to just enlighten and just remind people of the developers of those two when they come, on why it's important to the Crenshaw district and the African American community in the Crenshaw district.
Okay. Anything else? For those of you who want to, I don't know if you need to, but you can save the chat. I don't know what you see in the chat. I don't know if you get the private chat or just a couple of motions, but if you wanted to save the chat for this or any other Zoom meeting, what you do is you bring up chat and you'll see where it says two, whoever it is, but two, you'll see three little dots to the right of that. And if you click on the dots, you can see save chat. So whether it's this meeting or any other, you can always save the chat. I just don't know in a meeting like this where there's private and public what you get when you save the chat. What you get. I know what I get, which is everything. So, okay. Anything else? I am good to leave, but I don't leave until everybody else leaves. So I'm going to say the meeting is adjourned, and hopefully you'll all leave.
Thank you, Laura. Good night to everybody.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, John.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Let me find my leave so I can go. Bye, Laura.
Bye-bye. Okay. I am turning off the meeting. There's a few people left.